What's going on, everybody? We're about to go live. My bad. I clicked it late. We're just talking it up. My bad, guys. All right, we're going. Hey. What is going on? D-Lo and KC on your airwaves. Although it's only KC today, but I'm not riding solo. I got my main man, James Ham, riding shotgun with me today as he fills in for Damian Barling. We are live on the Odyssey app. Go ahead and type in ESPN 1320 on Odyssey. You can listen to us there. You can watch us on YouTube, just barely. Sorry, all my people in the chatty house. All right, we were just talking, running our mouths, looking at Jabari Smith posterizing people, and I forgot to click live. So now we're live. I'm a little late, but we here. Don't worry about it. It's a Friday. You can catch us on YouTube. Type in ESPN 1320 on YouTube or Twitch or Facebook, because yes, we are making Facebook great again. We got so many things going on, man. Sacramento Kings playing tonight. NCAA Tournament going down tonight. The NFL's gone crazy. NFL has gone nuts. They're doing everything they can to steal the headlines. It's a little greedy. But it's working. It's working because they got some major ones. We even got some baseball radars up, man. So we got all of that going on. And like I said, I'm not alone today. Michael Jackson, you are not alone. I got my main man, James Ham, with me here for 4 hours. He's usually here. We usually hold him hostage for about an hour, 45 minutes. Not today. We got James for the whole show. James, what's going on, man?
I guess I'm long hauling today. Just gonna hang out, be here all day long, and see how it goes, and then get right in a car and drive right to a game and watch the Kings face the Boston Celtics. Yeah, it should be a good day of college basketball, of talking football, and a whole bunch of Kings.
Absolutely. We got a lot to talk about. I might even have James come on for the 13th round. But what everybody wants to know right now, James, before we get started with any of this Kings stuff, NCAA tournament stuff, do you agree with me that Foxy Brown is a pioneer?
Oh, I think so.
Do you know who Foxy Brown is?
I think so. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure I do.
Let's see. Let me ask you, who Foxy Brown? What are you thinking about? Who is that?
Well, maybe I don't then. What
do you think? Is it a movie? Is it an actress? Is it a rapper?
It's an actress. But it's I think I know who it is.
See, so here's the debate. So we'll go with the actress. It was a movie that the legendary Pam Grier was in, but
Pam Grier. Yeah, that's what I was trying to come up with. Pam Grier.
All right. See, so myself, and Damien, we had a conversation, a back and forth yesterday because I'm a little younger, and Foxy Brown is a legendary rapper. There's a young lady named Foxy Brown. So
Gotcha.
When I hear Foxy Brown, no disrespect to Pam Grier, I think the rapper Foxy Brown.
Yeah. No, I instantly think Pam Grier.
Okay.
Yeah. So right. Sorry about that. Yeah.
No worries, man. No worries.
Yeah. She was amazing. Yeah. She is amazing still, right?
The queen, Pam Grier, the queen. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Foxy Brown, the rapper, Foxy Brown, the character, Pam Grier. As far as I know, because you never know with Vivek anymore. You never know. I was just about to say they will not be at the Golden One Center tonight when the Kings take on the Celtics. But you never know with Vivek. I mean, you don't know who's showing up on court side anymore down at the Golden One Center after what we saw on Wednesday. But I don't think either one of them will be there tonight when the Kings take on the Celtics. And is it fair to say, James, the Celtics, one of the hottest, if not the hottest, top three hottest teams in the NBA right now. The first ones that come to my mind are them, Dallas, and Phoenix has done pretty well without Chris Paul lately. Those are the top three. Maybe Brooklyn's in there as well, but Boston, one of the hottest teams in the game right now, coming to Golden One Center.
Yeah, I like what Boston's doing. I think they are taking a little bit of advantage of the fact that that they aren't on the docket like they would normally be for all of these crazy TV games on Sundays and stuff like that. It really does wear out teams that at the end of the season is like this gigantic drum roll the NBA loves to roll out where you see marquee matchups every Sunday.
It's killing the
And
Lakers right now. It's destroying
yeah,
the Lakers.
yeah, yeah. No, it is. But look at the Lakers' schedule. Their schedule is so
That's
brutal.
what I'm saying,
And
because they got all the marquee games after football season, and they're not prepared for that. They're getting beaten down.
yeah, they're getting beat by everybody though. At
Yeah.
this point, I mean, it's just like a three-ring circus down there.
Yeah.
But I think Boston, because of their down year last year, they just haven't like been as big a name the last couple of years. After they made a nice run, you're seeing them kind of taking off the Nationals as much, and
Mhm.
that just means that your opponents aren't going to be those marquee opponents every single weekend. Then again, I could be wrong. I haven't looked at their schedule coming up. They could get tagged with a bunch of teams. I think it's fun. I'm hoping that De'Aaron Fox plays because I would like to see the matchup. I like the physical matchup that we would see in the backcourt and stuff like that. So, yeah,
Yeah.
good team,
What
exciting,
are
young.
you have you heard anything else about De'Aaron? He was listed as questionable yesterday, right? Now, is that changed at all in the last 12 to 18 hours or so?
No, last time I checked, he was still questionable. He banged his hand on Giannis Antetokounmpo, I guess, in the first quarter. And I saw it like right after it happened. He was, trying to shake it off. I was actually worried he broke his hand, and I'm pretty sure they sent him into the locker room with about 4 minutes left in the first half and had X-rays done. But we're in a holding pattern, and the Kings don't want to reveal whether he's playing or not until as late as possible. He is still listed as questionable. Jeremy Lamb is out. Neemias Queta is on G League assignment, so he won't be in Sacramento. But yeah, I think we're in a wait and see mode with Fox. And I was worried his season was over, like when I first started seeing it, because it's kind of like what Marvin Bagley did early.
Mhm.
When he started snapping his hand, like you're like, oh no, that's not good, because
Yeah.
usually anytime it's in here and it's not up here, then that's an issue.
Right. I was surprised he came back into the game, anything broken or not. You know what I mean? And tell me if I'm wrong here. I don't mean this as an indictment on the individuals or the players or anything like that. But lately, in this, Kings era, I'm thinking like the last 5 years or so, it seems like whenever anything happens to a player, they're out for the game. You know what I mean? Like we saw before the half, Fox, he got subbed out, but he went straight to the locker room with like maybe 2 minutes to go. And you can tell me if I'm wrong. It's just a feeling that I have. But it feels like when we see that with Fox, Holmes, Bagley when he was here, you name the player, Harrison Barnes, they usually don't come back. The Kings usually just say, hey, you're out for the game. And when he came back at the start of the second half, came out for warmups, I was shocked, man. And I was happy to see it, first of all, because I guess that's a sign that, it's not structurally serious. But I was shocked to see him come back out there, pleasantly surprised, I should say.
Yeah, actually, I was watching warmups, and at first he wasn't on the court, and then he came out for warmups and started shooting after halftime, and I was completely surprised. I did not think he'd come back, and I thought it might be something slightly more serious. We still don't know exactly what it is, but keep in mind that the Kings have an entire medical clinic there at the arena. So when a player does have something like that, they can take him right off the court, take him right into an X-ray room and get X-rays. If they need an MRI, there's an MRI machine, if I'm not mistaken, in like the building attached to Golden One. So like they have the ability to get things like right now, and that's such a game changer. I mean, it's a modern NBA, it's a modern professional sports, but when you can go in and specifically with something that you don't know, like a hand, where if you're going to have an injury, it's almost always a broken bone in that situation. If you are going to have an injury, right? So you can have a bone bruise or something like that, but normally when you see a player start holding his hand and stuff like that, it ends up being a fracture, and so you rush him right in, and they did their due diligence and said he was ready to go. I remember earlier in the season, Marvin Bagley got hit on the thumb really hard. He went in like like late second quarter, and then came back out in the third, and he had an X-ray on his thumb, and it was clean. And he did come back out and play, which, he had a few games this year where I thought he was banged up, and he kept playing.
Yeah, he tried to get it out. I feel like he tried to get it out a lot this year. I don't know.
think
Maybe
so
it's
too.
all in my head. I just always, maybe it's just the paranoid nature in me. I feel like whenever somebody leaves the game with the Kings lately, they don't come back. And like I said, I don't look at that as any indictment on the individual. It seems like the cautious nature of the Sacramento Kings. But maybe they come back more than I realize.
Yeah, well, we did have Mo Harkless got injured in a game and did not come back. We did have Justin Holiday over the weekend got sick during the game and did not come back. And then was like, you got to do the whole quarantine him. It was non-COVID, but still, the last thing you want is a flu bug to go through the entire team. And they were on the road, and everyone had to get on a plane and get him back to Sacramento as well. So you got to kind of keep him in a designated area so he's just not getting everyone on the plane sick. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, this year there hasn't been nearly as many. I mean, there's little injuries for sure, but this is like truly the year of COVID where we've seen teams lose, 40, 50% of their roster, teams not being able to field a team at all and having to come out with 5 G League players or 4 G League players. So it's been a very, very strange year.
Yeah. And we'll get more into it as well, because the Kings and the Celtics go down tonight. They got the Suns on Sunday. But I don't know, James. There's a couple things going on here with the Sacramento Kings that I shouldn't be doing this. I understand I should not be doing this. But maybe you don't know, James. I have a list from the 25 game mark. I started to keep track. I said, this is what they're going to finish. I said 14-11. Right now, they're 2 games behind that pace, so they got to make up 2 games. But there's some things going on with these next few games here. And I'm just going to say it. The Pelicans have not buried the Kings like they should have. They haven't.
Don't go there, Kenny. Don't go there. Don't do it. They keep dragging me back in.
Look, if something crazy happens after this weekend and the Kings are 2.5 games back and they got Indiana, Orlando, and 2 Rockets games on the docket with a Heat game in between. I'm just saying, we're going to talk about it all because there's a reason why I'm also thinking that. And I want to get your thoughts on it too, James. So we're here for the next 3 hours and 45 minutes or so. We're here for a long time here on this Friday. I didn't mention it, but Friday we got Trista Crick. She's coming for BetMGM. It's always a good time to talk to Trista. Ben Ross from CBS 13. He's going to come on and talk about the NCAA tournament. And it's me and James Ham, man. We riding here on Sacramento's #1 spot for all your sports and Kings coverage, ESPN 1320. Okay.
All right. How's my video on your side?
It's good. It's excellent. Jesse, is he good? You're breaking up a little bit, Jesse. Uh-oh, that's not good. Can you hear me, Jesse? There we go. It's much better.
Much better. Sweet.
A little bit. Well, now you sound better than you did like 30 seconds ago. Cal Skate. Okay. Sounds good. Cal Skate, James. Cal Skate was a South Sac thing. But yeah, it was. Come on now. Come on. You know about Cal Skate, boy. And you about, what am I, 38? If you're between 37 and 40, and you're on the south side of Sacramento, Cal Skate, Saturday nights. Friday nights would sneak up on you sometimes too. But yeah, Saturday nights was crazy. You know what they used to have? And I did it one time. They used to have lock-ins for the skating ring, right? They used to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so they locked the door. You couldn't leave. Your parents had to like come and get you or something like that. And you'd be there till like the sunrise or something like that. I only did it one time. I should have done it more.
Yeah. When my parents got divorced right before my senior year in high school, but I have a younger sister that's, what is she? She's 8 years younger than me and 9 years younger than my brother. So we would take my sister on the weekends to go meet my dad at the roller rink. So it ended up a bunch of kids would go with us and go to the roller rink because they knew we would go every Sunday and hang out at the roller rink. But in Auburn, not down the hill.
Down there. I really like skating. I really do. One of the things that I want to do, I don't think I'm ever going to get, well, I shouldn't say that. I'm not going to put a limit on me. But, I want to be one of the like skaters that be moving and dancing and all that other stuff. I can glide pretty smooth. I'm pretty smooth out there, but I ain't doing I'm not doing the electric slide and skates. Well, maybe I am. I'm okay as a skater, but I want to get better. So yeah, that may be something.
The lost art of skating, you're going to try to bring it back.
At 39 years old, I'm going to try and be this roll bounce skater. That's the plan.
We should do a skate night with the Chatty House. That'd be awesome.
Say less, James. Say less. You guys heard it. We're setting it up. It'll either be a King skate out here in Elk Grove or the one out off by the drive-in. Those are only two skating rinks I know of right now.
There used to be one on Auburn Boulevard as well, sort of by Madison Avenue. I don't know if it's still there. By one of the old Gym Boys. One of the original Gym Boys. See, it always comes back to Gym Boys.
Always
it does.
I thought Gym Boys was a Sacramento original. It's not. Wasn't it made in the first one was in Lake Tahoe or Reno or something like that?
Oh, I thought it was a Sacramento thing, but maybe you're right.
Yeah, but I read that. I feel like I read that a couple years ago.
When I was a kid, we had one in Grass Valley. We had it was on Mill Street. All right.
Yes, indeed. James Ham's favorite song, All Gold Everything by Trinidad James. You guys hear it, James Ham. That's on his playlist. You know what it is. Here on D-Lo and KC on ESPN 1320. As you know, the show never stops on YouTube and Twitch. We're setting up a Chatty House roller night. That was a great idea by James. This is something we're doing all on the fly, but it's going to happen. This summer, it's going to happen. James will be there. We'll be skating. We're either going to get Damien out there skating. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to be at King Skate. It's going to be at the one by the drive-ins. I don't know what that one's called. Or Sunrise Skate. Sunrise Skate. And they got one in Roseville, too. They'll be doing they really do adult skate till 4 a.m. on
once a month. But that's got to be drunk skating. I'm kind of intrigued.
It's lit. I'm going. I know that I follow the DJ on Instagram. I'm going one of these. They do now at that one. That's all the people that I was telling you about. They're dancing and doing spins and all this other stuff. That's not really my bag, but I'm gonna get out there.
I could just see D-Lo refusing to play red light, green light because he doesn't want to get he doesn't want to stop too quick and get his white gear dirty.
That's it. The way my knees are set up right now, I'm definitely not playing red light, green light either. I can't stop. I can't stop.
Yeah, I can't do anything at this point. I've been hurting for a little while.
Yeah, man. But so James, I laid it out before we went to break, and I know, I don't want to do this, but you know what? It's not even my fault. Okay. It's not even my fault that we have to go down this road. Blame the Pelicans because this should be over, right? This should be done. And some would say it is over as it is. I understand that. I get it, but it should be done. This should be like a 6-game deficit. Last time that I checked, it's still only 4. Am I correct on that one? Is that accurate?
It's 4, but I'm pretty sure in the loss column it's 5, and that might be the biggest issue. Yeah, as of right now, the Kings are 5 back in the loss column with 11 games remaining. One of those games is against the Pelicans, and they do hold a 2-1 advantage over the Pelicans in the season series. I think the Kings also hold an advantage over the Spurs in the season series. And in between them, there's still Portland. So what you're saying is that the Kings are going to jump all of those people. Yeah.
Look, the crazy thing about all this, we talk about the Pelicans. The Kings haven't even jumped the Spurs and the Blazers for the last 3 weeks. We thought Blazers don't want to win. Spurs aren't playing well, and the Kings haven't been able to jump them. However, here's where I'm going to lay it out to you, though, James. I'm going to tell you, this is where the mind is thinking. I mentioned before, I've got, from 25 games, I started with the Wizards game. I said the Kings are going to go 14-11. Right now, they're 2 off that pace. They've lost 3 games that I expected them to win, and they won 1 that I expected them to lose. So they're 2 off that pace. For the record, on this list, I have them winning tonight, so they wouldn't even gain a game on my. And I did this with 25 games left. I said win, loss, all this other stuff. So they wouldn't even gain a game here tonight. But after the Celtics and the Suns, let's just say, for argument's sake, they're still 4 games back. I don't know how it will be. Well, Brandon Ingram's not traveling today. So they're still 4 games back. Then you get through this little gauntlet that they've gone through, and you've got Pacers, Magic, Heat, Rockets. They're realistically, I'm not saying they should. We know how that goes. But because of the way I see them playing as of late, it's not far-fetched to say they can win 4 out of 5 there. Just because of how they're playing. They're playing well. We know it's the Sacramento Kings. We know the franchise. They could fall flat on their face against Indiana and Orlando. We know how that goes. We don't have to put that out there. But I'm just saying, James, I've watched this team lately, and they haven't gone against no scrubs. This game against Boston is going to be what I map out. I think this is the 5th straight, physical playoff type opponent that they face. And they haven't played bad. Like, they've been fine. The Utah game, they hung in there without Sabonis, and Fox went crazy. The Bulls game, they won. The Bucks game was a good game. The Celtics game tonight, Suns on Sunday. The Mavericks, Denver game before that too. Yeah, that was a tough game. I'm just looking at this team, and they're playing. Is it okay for me to say they're playing good basketball right now, and they're just a little outmanned? I think they're playing good.
No, I think they are playing good basketball. Well, I don't even know if you could say outmanned. If they were playing this type of basketball throughout the season, they're probably a playoff team. They're probably, certainly wouldn't take much to get above the Lakers and the Clippers at this point. Right. I think they would be a playoff team if they were playing this type of basketball the whole season. And, I kind of feel bad for Alvin Gentry because he's had to coach like so many different seasons within a season, right? So we start out as Luke Walton's team, then he's got to take on a totally broken team. Then we go through the COVID stretch where it's chaos and everyone is missing time, including Alvin, or he doesn't even coach 5 games. Then we go through like the rumor mill stretch of the season. Then we go through the trade deadline and like the entire roster is flipped on its head. Then you go through the transition period coming out of the trades. And now we're finally starting to see what the Kings can look like, what they might look like, the possibilities that they have for next season. And so I think he's done a really good job of sort of bringing this team through a chaotic, crazy, wild season. And I'm glad they had a steady hand to do it. And now we get to see, like, should they try in the final 11 games to make a run of it? Because what you like, they have 4 or 5 that you just chalk up to like winnable games, right? Now, if you got 4 or 5 winnable games, that puts you at right around 29 wins. Is that good enough? And can you sneak in 1 or 2 other wins? Can you get a win late in the season if the Clippers have already made it? Can you get a win late in the season if, the Suns decide to cash it in on the last game of the season? So all of a sudden you're like 31 wins, and 31 wins might be enough to make the play-in, especially with the way the Lakers are playing and just like imploding.
It's crazy. After that little stretch that I talked about, that 4 out of 5 possible wins, they've got 4 games left after that. They got the Warriors with no Steph at home. Not really gonna matter, but at home. Warriors without Steph. Pelicans at the house. Clippers, Suns to close it out. And like you mentioned, who knows what the Clippers or Suns are doing at that point in time. So it is beyond far-fetched to think about that. I get that. But I feel like this conversation is worth a little 5 minute outlook on it because not because it's simply the schedule, but like I mentioned, how they're playing. I like the way they're playing. I like the way they're competing. And they're not competing this way just against the Pacers, Magic, and Rockets. They're playing against the best teams in the East. They're playing against a possible MVP candidate in Jokic and what the Denver Nuggets are doing. The Utah Jazz, we know what they've been able to do as of late. And if they can find a way, to have that type of output this weekend against Boston and against Phoenix, I don't know. Let's get crazy here. Steal a win between one of those two. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to be like, hey, maybe this team now will have the schedule fall in their favor and they can win some games. What that will result in, I don't know. But I'll say this. If they could find a way, to be after the second Rockets game on April 1st, they could find a way to be 2.5 games back. I'd be feeling some type of way. 2.5 back with 4 to go.
I'll say this. Yeah. If they get through this weekend and somehow sneak 2 wins, then I'll play the game. I'll play the game with you. I
don't think you're playing the game.
Yeah. The
games this weekend.
Yeah. The what if, because then you get to the Pacers Orlando and if you can string 4 together, now you are right back in it. I guarantee you're right back in it. And then you're talking about the Heat, which is tough, in Miami, which is a disaster. And it's in Orlando, Miami. So basically they're going to, on a Saturday night after the Orlando game, they'll fly into Miami. And then who knows what happens.
They're going right after the game.
Yeah.
The team
but then those
go right after the game in Orlando.
Yeah.
Miami.
I mean, then you're looking at the 2 games against the Rockets, and the Rockets are tryhards, but at that point in the season, they're going to be like, yeah, we're going to try hard, but without anyone who's any good at all. And so they're going to cash it in, and and then you just never know. I mean, this team has played, they've played the Warriors tough. It could come down to a Pelicans game, but I just, we kind of said it was. We said it was over. We said it was over. We should stick with it that it's over. And the other thing, too, is I'll bring it up really quickly. If you're the number 6 spot in the lottery, you have a 37.2% chance of moving into the top 4. It's 9% at 1, 9.2 at number 2, 9.4 at number 3, 9.6 at number 4, right? You cannot get the 5th spot. People should know. The Kings cannot technically, unless they move into the 5th spot, there's no way for them to get the 5th spot because only the top 4 are chosen in the lottery, right? And if you're the 6th team, and that means that teams will get pushed down to number 5, and you can't get to number 5. Now, when we get to if you fall to number 7, we start seeing the math change. So if you're the 6th seed, you literally have a 37 point. You have a better chance of moving into the top 4 than any other spot, at all. You only have an 8% chance of actually being the 6th seed, but you have a 32% chance of being the 7th seed. So you actually have a better chance. If you slide back 1 spot, then it's almost 50-50 that you'll either move into the top 4 or you'll be your pick or later. And then as you go if you somehow drop to number 8, it flips, and then you're looking at a much lower percentage of moving up and a higher percentage of actually being number 8 or number 9. And that's where you kind of want to avoid. So the 6th spot, in theory, is really good, but Portland is going to lose almost every game from here on out. Holding on to that 6th spot is going to be tough because the Kings aren't just quitting. They're trying to build a culture right now with a new group and chemistry and stuff like that. But when it comes to this other group, San Antonio kept winning because Popovich was going for the all-time wins total. And now, lo and behold, what are they, a game and a half out
Yeah,
of the
they're
10
right
spot?
there.
They're
Yeah.
like, all right, we're good. I mean, that's part of our culture is to play it out and fight and, give it a shot. They don't ever cash it in and quit. And so I would assume, like, for my money, I think right now they're probably the team. San Antonio is probably going to be the team, which is good for the Kings because if they keep winning, then the Kings can keep winning a game or two here and there without damaging their perspectives for the lottery.
Yeah, that was so much, James. That was so much. So sick in what you're talking about, because this is interesting because a lot of people talking about just losing games and all this other stuff. 6, in a sense, is better than 5 if you're trying to tank. Like finishing with the 6th worst record is better than finishing with the 5th worst record. That's how I read that.
No. Fifth. I mean, fifth is still going to be odds wise. It's going to be a higher percentage to
Take
move
it in
up.
at 4. Okay.
Yeah. You have a slightly better odds of moving up. I'm trying to look up the odds while we're talking, but yeah. Oh, there we go. Yeah. So if you're the 5th spot, which is right now it's Indiana, you have like a 40. I'm going to say 42% chance. 42.1% chance of moving into the top 4, right? But you only have a 2.2% chance of being the 5th pick, even though you are the number 5. You actually have.
So
Yeah.
if you're the 5th pick, if you don't get into the top 4, you're probably falling back.
You have a 19.6% chance of being the 6th pick and a 26.7% chance of being the 7th. So again, the 6th pick has only an 8.
This is crazy.
Yeah. So if you're the 6th pick, it's crazy. You have a 9% chance of number 1. You only have an 8.6 chance of being the 6th pick. If that would mean that the top 5 teams all land they all land in either the top 4 or the top 5. So like the 5th, if it went 1, 2, 3, 4, all land in the top 4, then the 5th pick is number 5 and you get the 6th pick, right? But that never happens. One team from 6, 7, 8 always moves up,
Right.
almost always. And then they push one team back. So if you're the 5th pick, the worst you can draft is 9th, but that's like statistically like so improbable. We're looking at a 0.6 chance of that happening where 4 teams jump into the top 4. And then it pushes the number 1 team back to number 4, the number 2 team back to number 5. So that's where the Kings they cannot be the 5th pick. But again, like I was saying, like the Kings have an 8.6 chance of being the number 6 pick and a 9% chance of being the number 1 pick. You have a better chance at number 6 of being number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4 than you do of being number 6. But you have a 29.8% chance that someone will jump ahead of you and push you back a spot, and you'll be the 7th pick, and a 20.6% chance of being the 8th pick. But again, as you move down, if you go to the next, you drop down to number 8, right? Number 7. Number 7, your chance of being the number 7 pick now increases from 8.6 at 6 to 19.7 of being the 7th pick. And your number 1 overall pick drops to 7.5%. Where you really see it is that you have a 34% chance of being the 8th pick. And then the 9th pick, which is currently San Antonio, they have a 6% chance of moving to number 1, but they have a 34.5% chance of being number 7 and a 32% chance of being number 9. So you're literally looking at like a 67% chance of being the 8th or 9th pick if you fall back 2 spots. So that's why keeping it number 6 is really crucial to the Kings. Wow. And I mean, somehow you could get to number 5. I just don't like Indiana's going to tank. I mean, that's going to be a fun game, the Kings versus Pacers. And it's I
need that W for my sanity, for my Twitter page, for my timeline. I need that W. I need to get that. That was crazy. I think my fuzzy math of how they get to the 10 spot was even clearer than that. That's crazy. That is insane. But I want to ask you this though. I look at this team. We talk about how we both agree they're playing good basketball. I look at them and I see the game against Milwaukee. I see the game against Chicago. I feel like the Kings are one. If they could get more than one player, that'd be great. But I feel like if they only upgraded one spot, that would be good enough to get where Minnesota is this year. So, for instance, they upgraded the power forward spot and everybody else came back, or you traded Rashaan and upgrade. And when I say upgrade the power forward spot, I'm not even talking John Collins or Julius Randle. Or this is a scenario I laid out. Power forward doesn't get upgraded. You come back with Dante DiVincenzo as your starting two guard, Terrence Davis. I think in a draft pick, I think that upgrade, they're not far from being where Minnesota is. What do you think about that?
Okay, so in theory, yes, you're right, but I would assume that the Lakers are going to do something to improve. I'm going to assume that the Clippers will do something to improve.
No, they just get their guys back. Kawhi and Paul George will be back.
Yeah, I'm going to assume that Zion Williamson being back on the Pelicans actually makes a difference and they improve as a team.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where, like, in theory, you could say, like, if they add one or two, but that's assuming that no one else does anything.
Mm-hmm.
And that just doesn't happen. And so, what if one of those teams, like, jumps up to number one and gets a game changer? Right. Someone asked in the chatty house, is this a great draft? Really, to me, it's a high level two-man draft at the top, which is Chet Holmgren and Jabari Smith Jr. We just saw Jabari Smith Jr. this morning. He does some really interesting stuff, and he would look really, really good on in a Kings uniform because he hits that trailer three. So you can have Sabonis work as, he's not a conventional, but as a rim runner to draw the defense down and then hit the trailer. I think he's a lot like Jaren Jackson Jr. So if people are big JJJ fans for Memphis, I'll say this. I think Jabari is a better rebounding version of that. So that's a good thing because Jaren Jackson is not a good rebounder at all. And then you have Chet Holmgren, and to me, some people are leery of Chet. My goodness, what he did in their first game, and he like, okay, so what's he finished with? Like 19 points, 17 rebounds, 7 blocks, 4 assists, and 2 steals, and he did that playing alongside, like, Son of Anarchy, Drew Timme, like he's out there looking like, like he's about to play dodgeball, but Drew Timme put up 32 and 13. Like, so that's the good thing about Chet. It's that he's already showing that he can play with a big, and I guess you could say the same thing about Jabari. Right now he's playing with Walker Kessler, who's like, Walker Kessler had 9 blocks today. And he's a big, tall, lanky dude. Yeah, I like him too.
Yeah, I like that dude.
Yeah, so in my opinion, the Kings need a stretch 4 that can block shots. And Chet is probably the best of the group for that. Just then people who say he gets pushed around. No, he doesn't. Sam Vecini from The Athletic, who literally, in my opinion, there's two great draft experts in the league right now, and those are Mike Schmitz from ESPN and Sam Vecini from The Athletic. Vecini is so comprehensive, where Mike Schmitz has actually seen everyone live and sat down with them. I mean, he's out there in like Belarus, like hanging out at some weird gym somewhere.
He's seen
both of them
for like the last 5 years.
Yes. Well, and they also, like, especially Schmitz, he came from Draft Express, where he built the film room, basically. He was the one that did all those videos that everyone watched for years that were the video breakdowns. But Vecini, I bring him up because in this case, he says that he believes Chet Holmgren will be the best defensive player in this draft, bar none. Like the versatility, his ability to defend guards at 7'1" and 195 pounds. and then he averages 3.5 blocks a game. I mean, he can shoot the three, and at where he's at Gonzaga, they're not even allowing him to do any of his off the dribble stuff at all. Like everyone keeps saying we're seeing 25% of what he can do.
Yeah.
And that should be like absolutely stunning.
He's
It's kind of
skilled, man. He's a skilled player. And I look at Chet, and I got the same concerns as other people may have. Super skinny, super tall, getting physical in the NBA. Seems like in theory it might be a problem for him, but I think his skill level is so high that he'll figure it out while he puts on his grown man weight and things of that nature, and gets with an NBA trainer and an NBA training staff. I think he's going to be great. I think he's going to be great. You know who I like? This is almost like a Kenny Caraway prototype. You know who I like? My boy Paolo Banchero. Come on, that's out of the Kenny Caraway factory of ball players. Defense is an issue for the Kings, but I watch him play sometimes, and I'm not saying he's going to be this good, but his offensive skill set with his size, I get Carmelo vibes.
Okay.
That's
an interesting comp. I think the problem that I have with him is that he's a high usage player, and you already have two high usage players. And so what you need is more specialized players. Now, look, he could be like a multi-time All-Star for sure. He's not my favorite. I think he avoids contact a little too much. I don't think he's physical enough on the defensive end. But I think in my book, this is a tier. This is a two-man draft at the top, and then there's a second tier, and the second tier is a two-man draft. And I see Jaden Ivey and I see Banchero right there, together. And whoever is out there working with Jaden Ivey on his look. They mastered it. He looks just like John Morant, and every time you see him play, you're like, "Oh my gosh, it's John Morant."
Every move he makes looks like
every single move he makes, and he plays with reckless abandon, and he flies in for hammers with both hands. He's so fun to watch. Whether he'd fit with the Kings, who knows? I mean, with all the cutting, he had to improve as a shooter for sure to stretch the floor for these other guys. But my goodness, if you're not watching him in the tournament, like you should be. He is a blast to watch. And I would actually, for me, I would probably take him above Banchero just because, guards in this draft, he's really good. And then to me, the third tier is wide open. There's all kinds of guys in this third tier, and I don't love, they're slightly flawed, all of them.
When you get into the third tier, you start to play with the trade machine.
You are trade.
You see what you but James, because there's more there. I know our guy Ice is loving this conversation. He's been asking for 3 weeks to talk about the draft. Sir,
yeah,
we'll get there. But we're gonna step out for a quick second. We're gonna come back because I got a question to ask you, not only about these prospects, but about the way the Kings may approach the draft in general. And I want to see what you got to say about that. We're going to come right back. It's myself, KC, no D-Lo today, James Ham riding shotgun. We're talking everything Kings. We're talking about the tournament. We got to talk about football. We got Trista Crick coming on at 2:00. We got my man Ben Ross from CBS 13. He's going to be in here at 1:30, and we having a good time, baby. It's a Friday right here on your number one sports station here in Sacramento, ESPN 1320. Who was in here, Roddy, talking about Miami's jerseys? What are you talking about, Roddy? This is actually an ode to the old Miami jerseys, the old Miami basketball jerseys. You sound crazy, Roddy. These are actually fire.
This 7'4" kid for Purdue is interesting to watch. Actually, Purdue has a couple of interesting dudes.
They do.
They even number 50 is they literally cloned Caleb Swanigan at Purdue and brought him back.
I think when I saw him, I said, "Look at another Swanigan." Yeah, 50 is massive, or not 50. The other dude is massive though.
Yeah, he's 7'4", and I think he's 295. But he's really refined in what he does. He's strong. He's not going to get pushed around. The Warriors will reevaluate Steph Curry in 2 weeks.
Reevaluate him in 2 weeks.
Did you see Kerr going at
Yeah, Marcus Smart.
Marcus Smart? Yeah, and they have
Save
a relationship.
that. I want to talk to you about that. Because
Okay, cool.
yeah, I
Yeah,
meant to put that in there. I wanted to ask you about that.
yeah. Right, because there is something we can't talk about there. They do have a relationship.
Mm,
Yeah, and the comparisons to Durant, I don't know if that's fully fair with Chet, but I think that's the kind of body type you have to look at.
mm.
Yeah, I don't know.
And
He's
Durant, like when people say that, it's like, yo, no, I'm not. And I know what they mean. They're just talking about his frame and stuff like that.
yeah,
No, Durant. I would never say, well, Kevin Durant did it. So no, Durant's an alien. He's not of
yeah.
this earth. Like if I thought Chet Holmgren could do it, it's just because I think Chet Holmgren could do it, not because Kevin Durant did it before him. Because KD
Yeah.
is something else.
Well, and people need to remember Kevin Durant led the nation in scoring and rebounding his freshman year at Texas. Like, and that hadn't been done before, it was like 15 years or something. And the last guy to do it before him was Kurt Thomas. And I think Kurt Thomas did it in back-to-back seasons.
Shout out to TCU, Kurt Thomas.
Yeah. So, and look, and that's the other thing. He played at TCU, which was, they're crazy. They've always had like that crazy up-tempo style and stuff. Yeah, I want to see Chet at the next level because when we talk about like Kentucky big men, we always hear, oh, they're so much better. They're so much better. You're just not getting to see it.
Right.
And then when I saw DeMarcus Cousins for the first time, who had never dribbled the ball at all at Kentucky, and he busts out on a break and starts, doing spin moves at half court around guards and going between his legs, you're like, oh my gosh. And then the passing, which we'd never seen, but he's not the only one. Anthony Davis was, Cat, they all have been able to show that they're much better at the pro level. And it's because a lot of the college systems, they want a rim runner. So they want Willie Cauley-Stein. They want chain to the back to the basket big. They want a driving guard, which is, you go to Calipari, that's John Wall, it's Tyreek Evans. Just keep naming every Kentucky guard. They run at the rim, and then you want shooters. And so when they get to the pros, they're only allowed to do certain things at Kentucky. When they get to the pros, they're allowed to do all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, Derrick Rose came from, he was at Memphis with Calipari.
That's another. Yeah, we're gonna get into Coach Cal too because
that's right.
Yeah, I'm getting the sounder ready right now.
Oh my gosh! Did you see this?
Hold on one second. Ooh. Boy, oh boy, we're here on D-Lo and KC. We are talking basketball, talking draft, all that good stuff. I got my main man James Ham with me here, riding shotgun with me as D-Lo is off, and having probably a little glass, a little glass of McQueen. I ain't trying to put his business out. I don't know what he's doing, but he probably having a little taste right now here, just relaxing, sitting back, having champagne and campaigning. But James, before we talk any more about the draft, a bomb has dropped. Yeah, we got to break that glass. I'm gonna break it again because this is big one. Yeah, Deshaun Watson. According to Adam Schefter, Deshaun Watson has decided he wants to play for the Cleveland Browns in a stunning change of events per sources. Watson has informed the Houston Texans that he now is willing to waive his no-trade clause in his contract to be dealt to the Cleveland Browns. Wow. I didn't see that coming. That's a game changer. Watson to Cleveland. Cleveland won. They were able to go from Baker Mayfield to Deshaun Watson. Oh, yeah. It's lit. It's lit.
Yeah, and what does that mean? Is Baker going to the Texans, or is he going somewhere else? Like this is wild.
They're gonna just put Baker on a boat on Lake Erie. They don't care what happens with Baker. Here, Baker, just go. Just go. You look, Baker up here the other day. I demand a trade. Cleveland was like, fine, get the hell out of here. We got Deshaun coming. I demand a trade. Wow, this is a game changer. So yeah, I mean, to answer your question, I mean, Baker if I was Houston, I'd try to get Baker. I think that's a good young guy. Now he's got a contract thing coming up. I don't know if they want to do that. I guess they'd have a year to watch him and figure out what they want to do with him. But they also like the quarterback they have though too. They might look at him as the same as like Baker. What Jesse? What's the guy's name again? I always want to call him Dallas Austin, but that's a black like hip hop and R&B producer. That's not who he is. His name is Davis Mills. I don't know why I wanted to say Dallas Austin, but yeah,
you're close.
Yeah, a little close. Davis Mills. Yeah, they seem to like him in Houston. If I was the Texans, I would not want to deal with Baker. I'd just go with Davis Mills and see what this young guy is. And if he's good, cool, I got one. If not, well, I'll go back in the draft. I'm not looking to win right now anyway. So I don't know where Baker goes. What you thinking about Baker?
Yeah, I think the Deshaun Watson thing has ruined like 5 franchises at this point because, Atlanta has put the Matty Ice deal on like just hold. Jimmy Garoppolo, the Niners, were able to clear enough space to absorb his contract, and now he's got to go somewhere. So where does he end up? Does he end up with the Saints? Do we see some sort of 3-team deal here, 4-team deal where Carolina still needs a quarterback? Atlanta is now out in space. I could see definitely. I don't know if they'll trade within the division, but. I could see Matt Ryan going to the Saints, who have more of a refined offensive game that they know exactly what they're trying to do. Like Seattle still needs a quarterback. Like this is wild. I can't remember another year where the quarterback shuffle was so like extreme like this, and it's entertaining. I mean, for sure. And if you're the Niners, you're sitting there like, okay, that's probably a good thing for us. What just happened is a good thing. So now what can we do with Jimmy G? Will he go? Can they get a 3rd-round pick? Can they get a pair of 3rd-round picks? What is it that they're going to get for him?
Yeah, it's big because the carousel gets to move, and there's going to be one left. And the big wild card, in my opinion, with all this is what has become of the Falcons' relationship with Matt Ryan, right? So even yesterday, it had gotten reported as they thought that the Falcons thought they were the favorites to land Deshaun Watson. And Adam Schefter reported that the Falcons this was yesterday, now have pushed back the $7.5 million roster bonus due Friday to quarterback Matt Ryan. They pushed it back to Tuesday, giving Atlanta 4 extra days to hear the Deshaun Watson decision and be able to trade Ryan if necessary, per league sources. First of all, I didn't even know if that's legal. Like, I don't even know if you can do that. I guess they were able to. But I was going through the comments for that, and somebody asked, well, this can't be a good thing for Matt Ryan. Like, Matt Ryan can't be happy about this. And somebody screenshotted Matt Ryan's Twitter page, Matt Ryan's wife's Twitter page. And she had liked the tweet where it said, whatever happens, the Falcons don't deserve Matt Ryan. I hope he lands on a good team and takes them to the promised land. And you know how we look at parents and wives here liking stuff on Twitter, and it means everything. But I think this one is valid, right? Like, in that house, Matt, when all that happened, Matt was probably like, yeah, I'm done here. Like, move me. There's no coming back from this. So now Atlanta is going to be looking for a quarterback. And because of that, to your point with Jimmy Garoppolo, I think there's almost guaranteed to be one team that's going to be looking for a quarterback between the Colts, Falcons, Saints, and Panthers. Somebody's going to be looking. Whereas if Deshaun would have went to the Falcons, maybe there wouldn't have been a team left at that point.
Yeah, I mean, the musical chairs is crazy. And, the Niners think they have their guy. But what they don't want to do is get stuck with that $24 million contract.
Yeah.
They have extensions that they need to work out with Debo and with Nick Bosa, and they got a lot to do still. I mean, I don't even think they're done shopping.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is the big drop, the big thing
Hmm.
that happens, and then what happens from here? Do they give up a bunch of picks, or do they give up Baker and a bunch and less picks? Like, how is this thing going to work out? And again, I think even Jimmy, like, there were rumors about him going last year for Deshaun Watson because their front office, came from the Patriots, but I think they've mixed up their whole front office again, right?
Yeah.
Like that,
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
mess, man. The whole this is crazy. We've never, again, like, Russell Wilson already got traded. We haven't seen this type of like change in quarterbacks all around the league. I don't think like ever. I
I
don't
can't
think we've
remember
seen
it.
something like this.
I
Yeah,
can't
or at
remember.
least like what's going to happen between now and the start of the season.
Right.
We're only at the tip of the iceberg. This was the big thing that was holding everything up, and now it's just going to be the Wild West. And
We hadn't even
I
had
think it's good.
the draft yet.
What's that?
We hadn't even had the draft yet. We got draft day deals, picks being all this other stuff that could happen, man. So it's crazy. I know I read somewhere where Seattle may be a destination for Baker. Matt
Yeah.
Ryan may be a destination for the Seattle Seahawks, as I guess they're looking for a veteran quarterback. Maybe Matt Ryan goes there. It's a lot going on. It's a lot. I want to make sure we give football its proper time, because obviously before this deal yesterday, major deal, the Las Vegas Raiders making a huge splash, getting Devontae Adams. I want to give that its due, because that's a big story. But I wanted to get back to the Kings, because I wanted to ask you a few questions about what's going on with them. We were talking
Okay.
about the draft, and you broke down the tiers, eloquently about the guys that they should be looking at. Let's put them in that second tier, not the third tier where we think, the players that would be in the third tier where we think they're just gone, right? Like the Kings would not be drafting one of those guys. Let's go into that Jaden Ivey, Banchero, I'll put him there, guys like that. What do you think the Kings' approach to this draft is? Is it, number one, move this pick almost at all costs for an established veteran? Number two, if we are making the pick, are we once again going best player available? Or are we going to lock in on a need, a shooting guard, a power forward, even if we don't think he's number one on our board with the guys that are left? We're going to really focus. The last 2 years, we went best player available. Now let's lock in on our position. What do you think their mindset is for? I'll make it simple. Let's start one at a time. For drafting a player, if they drafted, what's their mindset in your opinion?
Okay, so I'll just like kind of rattle it off, because I think if you're in the top two, you take one of the guys, right?
Mm.
I think that's like, you'd be crazy not to bring one of those guys in. And the reason why is because both of them are, they're very gifted. They have really high ceilings, but they also both fit perfectly next to Sabonis. So that would be my first thing. I do know that, like, around the team, they're like, they think it's probably a 3-man draft with Paolo Banchero being the third. So maybe he works, maybe he doesn't. I think he's again a little bit too high usage. I think if the Kings are outside of the top two and maybe three, that they trade the pick. And whether they're going to get, I'm like, there's all kinds of options here. Like, they can go chase a player like John Collins, who's now out with plantar fasciitis, to go with his gigantic finger that he's been playing with. So you've got something like that. I think there is going to be a market for this pick without any question. It's just a team that's looking to reset and do what they're doing a little younger and probably a little cheaper. But if you do make the pick and you're at number 3, then you can look at Paolo Banchero, or you can look at Jaden Ivey, or you can look at AJ Griffin. There's the best thing about this specific draft is if you look at the top 10 players on most people's mock drafts, and you can probably go, 15 deep, every single one of those players in some way, shape, or form, there might be one guy who you say that doesn't fit the Kings. The Kings need a stretch four that can block shots. They need a wing, and if they get a high level wing like an AJ Griffin, they can move a guy like Harrison Barnes to the four and go a little bit smaller, especially with Sabonis being able to rebound as well and clear space as well as he wants. But if you don't want to bring back this whole like swath of shooting guards that you have, there's an option there where you can draft a shooting guard. I think there's a lot of players. People mentioned Keegan Murray. Keegan Murray flamed out hard in the tournament.
You were
and
you were on. I mean, and I don't want to put words in your mouth. I think you think Keegan Murray's a fine player, but people were going crazy over him. You were the first one to be like, not so fast.
Yeah, the numbers, like
that didn't take over the way you would want a top 5 pick to take over.
No, like, and if you're somehow the number 7 or 8 and Keegan Murray is sitting there, you got to consider him. But again, I'm trading the pick. I'm not drafting Keegan Murray in that situation. I just think he's fine. He's a perfectly fine player. And I compare him a little bit to like a Sadiq Bey, with maybe a little bit higher ceiling than Sadiq Bey, who just dropped 50.
I'm about to say that's a good comparison.
So he can drop 60 because Sadiq Bey and Corey Brewer, they can drop 50. So that means that Keegan Murray can go for 60 without any problems. No, I just there are a lot of players in this specific draft that fit what the Kings need. I remember 2-3 years ago, the only stretch 4 in the draft was Zeke Naji that went to Denver, and he went in the 20s. We have seen this huge issue with a lack of stretch 4s in the draft. You have some athletic 4s, you have your big rebounding, banger 4s, but you hadn't seen a true stretch in a couple of years. And now the league has this issue that there's a lack of stretch 4s, and we're going to see this draft very specifically fill it all up, fill up that position.
You're listening to ESPN 1320 KIFM West Sacramento, KRXQ HD2 Sacramento and Odyssey Station, and driven by Lasher's Elk Grove Dodge. It's your main man, Kenny Caraway. I got James Hamright with me. D-Lo's got the day off, man. He's champagning and campaigning, having a good time at the Union of the Madsons. Yeah, we're riding over here. We're talking a little NCAA tournament. We're talking Kings draft. We're talking about Kings in general. We're going to talk about the NFL and the signings that they have going. I'm gonna let James get on the soapbox and complain about the A's for about 5 to 10 minutes. We'll do all of that. But right now, I'm talking about the Kings in the draft. And I go back and forth about what I would want to do with this pick. Sometimes it's trade it at all costs. And then I see a Jaden Ivey. Or I think about, well, what if we got the 4 pick? AJ Griffin fits really well. Or my guy Paulo, or got in the top 2, Chet Holmgren, all this other stuff. And then I combine that with the fact that outside of Julius Randle and John Collins, I don't know what type of game changer might be available for you to trade for at that point. Just looking around the landscape of the league, there's obviously guys that pop up. You never know. I remember who knew Jimmy Butler was going to get traded and Zach LaVine. So guys, pop up the closer you get to the draft. But I'm outside of those two, where would that impact established player come from that you would trade a top 5 pick for?
I think what you said, there's always someone who is available that you don't know it's available. There always is. And that's what I think the Kings need to wait and see who is going to be available this summer. I don't think anyone has a true read on a handful of players, some of the big name players that could come available, which you probably aren't going to get involved with. Your Damian Lillards or Bradley Beals, that kind of stuff. But when those trades loosen up, there are other players that become available because of those. And so I think that there's going to be a nice reset here in the league. And I think the Kings should be They should be ready, willing, and able to do anything that makes this team better. But it's got to be like a medium term deal. It's got to be like a young player on a 3-year deal, at a minimum, two plus 3 years. You want to build something so you can keep Sabonis. We talk about that all the time, and I think that's the biggest issue. When you made the move to get Sabonis, you accelerated whatever timeline you had by like 2 to 3 years. And I don't buy the full like, oh, it's a 4-year difference and like you threw away your future because of Halliburton. I mean, Halliburton's 22. Sabonis will play this entire season as a 25-year-old. He'll be 26 in the offseason, and then he'll play the entire next season at 26. Yeah, did you speed up your system here? Yeah, you did. But at the same time, you can't be bad forever. Well, the Kings are proving you can be bad forever. But they're also proving that really does hurt your pocketbook. It makes it much more difficult to do, fun things when you don't have any fans in the stands. So I think we're going to see this team be aggressive, and there will be players available. Like whether it's a John Collins or whether there's some other players that you would never think would be available, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, he is. Like Miles Bridges is a restricted free agent, and I think it's going to be nearly impossible to get him out of Charlotte. But not complete
here. Like he'd be great with Sabonis and Fox.
Yeah. I mean, there are players out there that you definitely look at and go, I think we could probably see the Kings chase that player. And there's your guy, Cam Reddish. Yeah, there you go.
Is right on. Cam Reddish, go get him. Free him from.
There you go. Yeah.
Free him from Tibbs.
I think he's going to get freed from Tibbs. It's not going to be like they're going to show Tibbs a door here in a couple of weeks. Yeah. He's on his way out in New York, and so like maybe Cam Reddish gets a longer look there. But some of these teams. Are going to want to reset their rosters again. And Sacktown Tony, no, I'm not looking at TJ Warren. The guy's he's played like 4 games in 2 years. Like I like him. Yeah, but he doesn't shoot the 3 ball. He's an inside the key guy. He's a mid-range jump shooter. So I just don't like him.
Yeah. There's a guy in the draft that some might say Cam Reddish that has my attention. He actually, when I see him, he reminds me of like a possible Paul George. You familiar with Shaedon Sharpe?
Yeah. I've watched a little bit on him.
It's a weird.
He's tough though.
Yeah. Weird situation. He hadn't played at all in Kentucky this year. I don't know what's going on with that. And obviously Kentucky needed talent, as we saw what happened to them yesterday. And he just wasn't playing. Cal said a long time ago, I don't think he's playing this year. What? But I see some clips of him, and man, the Kings could get him and have him potentially be, a shooting guard to go with Fox. And see, there's always somebody that sucks me in, James. Every time I'm like, nah, we got to move this pick, man. We got to move this. And then I see Shaedon Sharpe, or I see Jaden Ivey go off or whatever. I even see sometimes Johnny Davis looking like a little mini Devin Booker out there. And it's like, oh, man. I don't know what to do.
I think the things, you don't have to just trade the pick and not have a pick. Like you can take, let's say the Kings end up at number 6, or like either 4 or 6. That doesn't mean that you can't trade that for a team with a really good player at but also has their first round pick at like number 14, 15, 16. So you could get back in this draft. And the other thing about that is you get back in the draft, then you don't have to worry about things like, the Stepien rule and all that.
Right.
So like there are ways to figure this thing out where you can still be part of this draft. And I think this is a good draft. I don't think it's a great draft by any stretch of the imagination. I think that there are a lot of players that are unknown. But I talked about this before with you guys. I think going forward, like the next 3 drafts are going to be a bunch of unknowns. It's going to be a lot of craziness because of the COVID situation. We're going to have a lot of kids who stop playing AAU ball. We're going to have a lot of kids that just didn't get to the sheer volume of games that they normally would as a player, that plays all year round, Like my son played competitive soccer for 7 years. I think he played like between 400 and 500 games. Like that's a lot of matches for any kid. So if you're a rec kid and you want to come out at age 13 or 14 and start playing for a comp team, like you're playing with kids who have your standard rec season is 10 games. You're playing against guys who have done that in like 2 weekends.
Right.
And so if you've played, 5 years of rec ball and you're coming in with 50 games under your belt, like these kids have played more games of Samba soccer than that. Like they've played, they've gone to 2.5 hour practices 3 days a week for years. Like you just can't replace the experience. So I'm slightly concerned about that with the upcoming draft, next year's draft, the year after, because these are the impacts that COVID is going to have that are the unseen, things like, and there's a lot of unseen things, how many people didn't go get their colonoscopies or didn't go get their breast exams because they didn't want to go to a hospital for 2 or 3 years. And then all of a sudden you come in and the stage you have cancer, but it's way further advanced than what it could have been. And so, I think it's a really interesting time that we're living in because there is this ripple effect that we just won't see the end of.
Trade the picks.
Trade the pick.
Trade
them all.
I actually have another question I brought up the other day that, it's a little bit of a smaller scale, but I'd like to know what you think about this as well, James. We'll talk about that as well. But before we get out of here, Adam Schefter reporting more on this Deshaun Watson to the Browns trade. This is a blockbuster. This is crazy. Schefter says the Browns and Texans are still finalizing official trade compensation for Deshaun Watson, but it is expected to include 3 first-round picks, a third-round pick, and potentially a 5th-round pick. League sources tell ESPN that's 5 picks for Watson. Gets crazier. Adam Schefter also reports every dollar of Deshaun Watson's new 5-year, $230 million deal is guaranteed, setting a new record for the highest guarantee given to an NFL player. Browns and Watson's agent. Where was it? I saw Ian Rappaport say something too about this. I think he said, here it is. That is $80 million more than the previous record for fully guaranteed money at signing.
Is there a morality clause?
I
mean, are you kidding me?
I would hope so. Every dollar guaranteed to Deshaun Watson. I don't think I've ever seen that in the NFL. That's crazy. That is insane. We'll talk about that more on the show. When we come back, we're going to dive into the NCAA tournament. Our guy, Ben Ross from CBS 13, he'll join the show, and we'll dive into what's going on in the tournament, and we'll continue to have our eye on this Deshaun Watson thing, as this is a blockbuster. This D-Lo and KC is just KC and Ham today, as we're getting you through the weekend, or getting you through the week here on this Friday, getting you ready for the weekend. D-Lo and KC on ESPN 1320. Wow. That's crazy.
Like, I mean, to guarantee that guy's contract, we're not talking about, we're talking about a dude who had, 22 women come forward? Like, you can say that was whatever, but there's at least a whole lot of smoke there. Like, and then you look at the Randy Gregory thing. Did you read up on that with what happened with the, so he was deep in negotiations with the Broncos to leave the Cowboys.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah.
And then Jerry Jones calls him up and gives him the hard pitch. Like, pitches it hard, said they'll match. They want him there. He's part of their culture. They love him, blah, blah, blah. Then they got the contract. So he said, okay, I'll sign with the Cowboys. He got the contract, and hiding in the contract was that if he is fined by the league for anything, all of his guaranteed money is gone. And they're like, hey, what's going on with this clause here? And they're like, oh, well, we put that in all of our contracts. And they're like, well, you didn't put it in Dax.
Right.
And they're like, well, everyone else gets that. And
no, they don't.
they said, okay, well, you can have your contract back. We're going to sign with the Broncos. And they left and went to the Broncos.
I didn't.
And of course,
read the details of. I just know he at the last minute changed. I didn't know he did that. I kind of don't blame him because that's.
Oh no, I don't blame him at all.
They don't do that to everybody.
Well, and he's a guy who has had like substance abuse issues.
Mm-hmm.
So like he's he's missed time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if I'm Randy Gregory, I don't. If somebody's giving me fully guaranteed money and these guys are saying if you get fined, we'll take it back. Hey, I'm trying to turn my life around, but just in case, I'm going to take this fully guaranteed money.
Yeah.
Where I don't have to deal with no nonsense. I didn't know that's what made him turn. That's a trip.
Yeah, that's what made him turn. It was the language in the contract was totally bizarre, and they're like, okay, like we're not doing this. Mm-hmm. Like I mean, I think they would even have like worked with the language, but not just. There was no way to really set it up and like break it down. Right. Yeah.
You good, James? You need to stand up or anything? You good? You straight?
I'll stand up next break.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. So I'm stretching out a little bit. I've got a chair to my left.
I know, right? Jesse said Aaron Rodgers got to be sick now. Aaron Rodgers got no headlines this whole time. Russell Wilson got him. Devontae Adams leaves him. Now Deshaun is taking over his highest paid contract thing. Aaron's going to do something in the next 36 hours.
People are asking in Chatty House, my back is okay. It's not great, but it's okay. I'm having a leg issue, which I talked about on the podcast, but I didn't get into specifics. But yeah, I'm having a left leg issue that's not been fun, which is just random and weird.
I'm seeing this clip of Eric Musselman. I know he had a shoulder issue, but he is at the press conference yesterday, like he just threw 120 pitches. He's got this huge old wrap over his shoulder. How about keep it in the sling, sir? So you won't need the ice in the wrap. That's hilarious. Howard, I think that was Howard's first ever tournament appearance, so good for them.
That's interesting. We're going to discuss the Rodgers situation here, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, like the Keegan Murray thing, and even someone said in the chatty house, oh, you keep saying Barnes at the 4. Like, just so people know, Keegan Murray and Harrison Barnes are the exact same size. They're both 6'8", and there's even concern that Keegan might measure in less than 6'8" without shoes. But he's just not physical like Barnes. He's not a grown man like Barnes. And yeah.
Yes, indeed. Your main man, Kenny Caraway. I'm in the building here for D-Lo and KC. Damien got the day off. Like I said, champagning and campaigning, having a good time in some beautiful California weather. I got my main man, James Ham, with me instead. He's riding shotgun with me. We just out here chopping it up. I'm trying to draft an email to ask Deshaun Watson for $1 or $2 because he's got it. Oh, he's got it, and he's gonna have all of it. All right, that's crazy.
You're going full Sacramento Prince on him, write him an email.
I'm gonna hop in the DMs. Hey man, let me $10 something. I know you got it. So he's on his way to Cleveland in a deal with the Houston Texans and the Cleveland Browns. Deshaun Watson going to Cleveland for it's not finalized, but it's been reported 3 first-round picks, a 3rd-round pick, and possibly a 5th-round pick. In that deal, Baker Mayfield is not in it, so we know he's not going to Houston. He's going to be on the move somewhere else. We'll see what Cleveland's able to do with him, but an absolute blockbuster in the NFL with Deshaun Watson moving teams. We're going to get into the NFL a little bit more as the show goes along, but in about 10 minutes, we got Ben Ross coming in from CBS 13, and everybody had their TVs on 13 on TNT, on TBS, True TV. The one time all year we go to True TV. That's not true. Do you watch True TV at all?
I don't think so.
They have I'm trying to think. I don't think it's them. They may have Court Cam. Have you ever watched Court Cam before?
I have not.
Court Cam's a good show.
That's interesting. Yeah. I don't know that I've watched True TV.
They have a new show called Neighborhood Watch or Neighborhood Cam, where they basically take people's most of it is like their Ring cameras, right?
Yeah.
They get crazy stuff that happens in the neighborhood. So if your neighbors are fighting or you got in a dispute with your neighbors, you send the footage in and it's a whole show of it. It's very interesting. Court Cam is kind of like that. Court Cam is like all the crazy moments from courts, right? So like a guy in handcuffs trying to run out of the courthouse and drop kicks the security guy and is running through, it's all this crazy stuff. So, but yeah, I think those might be on True TV. Those might be on A&E. I don't know. But if it's not on True TV, this is the only time of year we watch True TV, and that's the NCAA tournament, man. Are you a big tournament guy? I know you're always busy, with the Kings. Do you get a chance to follow college basketball outside of the tournament, or do you just get locked in during tournament time?
I watch a lot of clips and a lot of I follow it like during the season, but I crank up during the tournament. Like and then this is kind of, you start seeing players that you like, and then you start going back and watching more and more film on each of them. And I've done, like last year I think I did like 11 or 12 mock drafts. A year before I did like 22 mock drafts because of the pandemic slowdown. So like
drafts. Jeez.
Yeah. And they're like 4,800 words. They're not short. Yes. So
here's the frustrating. This is probably more so what happens in the NFL than in the NBA. But were any of them like right? Did you have Davion in any of them?
No, I don't. I don't think I don't think anyone has nailed the top even 10. I think like 3 years ago, I had the top 11 nailed. Yeah, my last mock draft had the top 11.
I think about those people that have to do, like yourself, who have to do the mock draft. You put all this work into it, and like I said, it's probably more so football than basketball. Basketball, you get close, but you put all this work and all this research, and then the teams do like nothing that you predicted. They go and get, in basketball, I think they need a point guard. They go get a center out of Italy or something like that. They're like, wait a minute, I spent all these hours researching, and then you go and get this guy. I feel like that's almost how it was when they drafted Tyrese Halliburton that year. Nobody had Tyrese falling that low.
No, I mean, there were actually, because I did so many mocks that year, and that was, again, Tyrese stopped playing in like January, February because he broke his wrist.
Yeah.
So he sat there until like, when was the draft? Like October? I mean, it was brutal. So we watched a ton of film, and I kept saying like, look, if his skill set translates, he's going to be a very, very good player. Someone's going to get a steal. There were times I had him at number 12 going to the Kings. But there are also times where I started to hear some things like, oh, he could go much, much higher. I know like the Golden State Warriors loved him, but they had number 2 and they weren't going to stretch and take him at number 2. They probably should have. That probably would have been a good pick at number 2 at this point. You're looking at like, like if he could be training with Steph and be your third guard there, like, like he would have been so good.
That future would have been even crazier.
Yeah. So, I mean, Weissman could turn out to be absolutely spectacular. They've just taken such a slow route with him. Yeah. So, no, I studied the draft. I have for years and years. Like, my first draft was like Zydrunas Ilgauskas draft. I remember, like, yeah. And I mean, I printed out a draft Bible on a Daisy Pinwheel printer, like with such slow internet speed that every page took like 5 minutes. Yeah. So I love the draft. I always have.
I'm sitting here. I'm trying to have a basketball conversation with James Ham, but the NFL just doesn't want me to be great as it's being reported now. I want to make sure I got this correct here. I don't want to get chatty housed. That's what they normally do with me. But I've seen some reports that Juju Smith-Schuster, who I wanted to come to the San Francisco 49ers, is now looking at possibly going to the Kansas City Chiefs. as an illustrious
Oh.
1 year, $10.75 million. Juju Smith to KC. My goodness, the AFC West is just getting nuts. The AFC West is going to be so good. I don't think anybody's going to make the playoffs from there. They're just going to beat each other up. It's only going to be the conference or the division winner who's going to make the playoffs, because they just going to beat each other up. But man, that division is getting crazier and crazier by the day. And I promise we're going to get into the NFL. But I wanted to ask you also about the NCAA tournament. Did you have a favorite college growing up? You went to Davis, didn't you?
I went to Davis. Yeah,
So
but strangely, I didn't go to a game at Davis ever. Yeah, let me think. Like when I was a kid, I watched Notre Dame football because that's what was on NBC every single weekend.
yeah.
And then you watched a ton of Georgetown basketball.
Mm,
So like it was the main television contract was Georgetown. So I grew up watching, Morning Mutombo, Allen Iverson and Victor Page, like, the great Othello Harrington.
oh, yeah.
But John Thompson was such a great coach, and I loved watching those guys. Again, I remember watching Alonzo Mourning and Dikembe Mutombo playing together was crazy.
That's nuts. How you scoring
Yeah.
those guys? It's
Well,
great.
I remember there was a play where Kenny Anderson was on a fast break at Georgia Tech, and Mutombo had not gone on the other end. He hadn't gone on to the offensive end, and so he's standing at the free throw line, and Kenny Anderson, who is so fast, is sprinting at him. He shook Mutombo so bad at the free throw line and went right around him, and Mutombo leaped backwards and swatted the ball off the backboard so hard it flew to half court. And it was like, what in the world? Yeah, watching him, and then,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm a big Georgetown guy too. Are you old enough? Now we'll get into this later in the show as well, as they're, getting ready to say goodbye to Arco and they're going to blow it up soon or whatever. I talk about all the time how some of my best memories there aren't Kings games. You old enough to remember? Do you remember when Georgetown came for the Sacramento Holiday Classic?
Oh, I don't remember that.
Yeah,
No.
that was probably 93, 94. Georgetown, Fairfield University, Sac State, and Grambling came to Arco for, one of the preseason tournaments. And it was Allen Iverson's freshman year. And I remember I went to, my mom got tickets just because it was Georgetown. She's like, okay, Georgetown, this will be cool. And we got there, and I didn't know much about them. And I got in a little program, and player to watch, Othello Harrington, right? I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch him. And I remember we were sitting next to some guys, and I was just like, yeah, I'm like 10, 11 years old. They're like, yeah, watch the number 50 guy, right? And the guys go, yeah, he's cool. But this freshman they got, that little guy, number 3, watch him. And I saw him play, and it had to be, I don't know, because it was December. It was probably like one of their first 8 games of that year, 7, 8 games, first 7, 8 games of his career. And I saw him play. I said, oh, I got to follow this guy forever. Like, he's going to be nice. And Allen Iverson. And these guys that we didn't even know them, but they ended up getting us backstage into the media area where they're like asking questions to John Thompson. And the guy that took me back there, he acted as if he was a reporter, asked John Thompson a question. And John was like, who are you with? He's like, I'm not with anybody. I just, came back here. I got my little nephew. I wasn't his nephew. He's like, I got my little nephew. And he was like, yeah, I just want to ask you a question. And Big John looks at him and goes, it's probably the best question I got all night. And he answers it, and he comes off, and he gave me his towel. I was like 19 years old. John Thompson, his towel, and I lost it. I don't know. I lost it. Yeah, I'll never forget that. That's an Arco memory for me right there. But tournament time as well. Hey, we got our guy, our main man from CBS 13. Ben Ross in the building here as we were talking a little college basketball, talking a little tournament, and you guys are the home of the NCAA tournament there in Sacramento, CBS 13. How you doing, Ben?
Hey, doing well. Yeah, we've got our sports extra shows after every day of the tournament. Last night was our first one, and because the USF Murray State game went to overtime, we ended up with like a 5-minute show. So hopefully we'll have a longer one tonight.
That game was crazy, man. I thought USF was going to win. Obviously, the point guard going crazy out there doing whatever he could to keep them in it. But that was a great game. There was some good basketball yesterday from the tournament.
I'm with you, man. I thought that was the best game of the day. Jamari Bouye, the guy from USF, living down in the Bay Area, I've watched him. He's a really good player. And those are two good teams. Murray State, I think they've only lost like 2 games the whole year. Mm-hmm. And now, well, it was funny because before that game was the Kentucky upset. So all of a sudden we're looking at USF and Murray State, and the bracket just totally opened up for them. Like, they win that game. Now they get. I mean, we'll see if St. Peter's keeps the Cinderella thing going, but you'd have to expect Murray State to be a pretty big favorite to get
St. Peter's look good, and look, I'm gonna test your guys' New York high school basketball, or actually, I think it's New Jersey high school basketball knowledge. Did I see that Shaheen Holloway is the coach at St. Peter's?
You are correct.
Point guard. Like this was like I would read Slam magazine and hear about Shaheen Holloway. That's how I knew about him. He ended up going to Seton Hall. But that's the same guy as the head coach over there, huh?
Yeah, Shaheen Holloway, man. First tournament win in that school's history. 2,600 students at St. Peter's. It's like a high school.
Crazy. That's crazy.
Jersey City. You gotta love it, man.
Stand up.
Yeah.
James, you talked about how you watched the game. You kind of like Georgetown. Is that who you still rolling with right now? Like, obviously they're not in the tournament, but is there another team since you've gotten older that like, okay, I like these guys, Kentucky or Kansas or something like that?
No, to be honest, like if you cover the NBA long enough, you have to have a lot of respect for Bill Self at Kansas, because he has a knack for going out and finding talent that is like so I can just list one after another. Guys like Darnell Jackson, who had like the most tragic life story of all time. Guys like Thomas Robinson, whose life story is so incredibly tragic. Everyone, Ben McLemore, same thing. Everyone around these guys are dying in gang wars and like all kinds of stuff. So like I like watching Kansas teams because that the guy who's there, he doesn't just make basketball players, which most of the time they're not very good at the pro level. What he does is he makes really good men. He goes out and he does his best, him and his coaching staff, to save kids that like would never. I mean, Ben McLemore used to mow lawns for like nickels, so him and his brother could go get like top ramen at the grocery store, at the corner store. Wow. Like these are kids that like don't have anything, and so I think he does a really good job of going into like communities that like no one else does, and he finds kids and does some amazing stuff. So. Yeah, I mean, maybe Kansas, and they always have some players that you're like, okay, they're intriguing, but then you watch and they never make it at the pro level, and you're like, yeah, all right, that's okay.
Hey Ben, I'm looking at your bracket right now. We talk about Kansas. I'm looking at your bracket as you enter the D-Lo and KC bracket challenge. Yeah. Big ups to you.
Not great so far.
Well, I mean, I need you to explain something to me. I'm looking here, and you see, as you go down the list, you see, okay, this guy thinks Gonzaga's going to win. This guy thinks, Kentucky's going to win. That's tough. This guy thinks Duke. KC thinks Arizona. I get to Ben Ross. Tennessee,
baby. The Vol.
Talk to me, Ben. How do we get here?
You know why, man? I do it because of that. I like to be different. I mean, it usually backfires. But I feel like I either do really well or really badly. I'm never in the middle because I like to go with something outside the box. And like you said, everybody's picking Gonzaga. Everybody's picking Arizona, Kansas. I don't know. I mean, here's the thing about Tennessee. I'll be honest. I didn't even follow them that closely this year. I've got a good buddy who's a huge Tennessee fan, so he's sort of kept me up to date. What I do know about them is that they've got a ton of talent, and they got really hot at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And from what I think a lot of people thought they should have been a 2 seed. The fact, like I saw a lot of criticism that they were a 3. And so I don't know. I'm looking at it. Maybe they got a chip on their shoulder. The way that I look at the tournament this year is it's more a lot more wide open than last year, when I think Gonzaga was better last year. Baylor obviously was incredible last year. I don't think they've got the same team. So I could see a handful of teams winning this whole thing. And I figured, what the hell? I'm going with Tennessee. I'm more worried about my UCLA pick. I think I took UCLA to the title game. They looked awful last night.
Yeah, I had UCLA in the title game as well, and I was like, "Oof, that's tough." But I still think that I think they'll be fine. I think they'll be fine.
And that's what happens sometimes. Is like a lot of the time teams get a scare early in the tournament. They put that behind them. UCLA, we know they're battle tested. They did it last year. They've got everybody back.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, I'm worried about their second round game. St. Mary's is a really good team.
That is going to be a good game. That's one that I think we on the West Coast, we want to see that all the time. UCLA will never schedule St. Mary's. It's almost like a couple of years ago. I remember, I think it was Wichita State versus Kansas in the tournament. And Kansas would never schedule Wichita State, and Wichita State was just ready for the match. Like they couldn't wait to play Kansas, and I think they got them in the tournament. So I could see some of that going on with St. Mary's going up against UCLA. I just wanted to, hey guys, the reason why I can pat myself on the back when I'm right, I say this all the time. When I'm right, I'm gonna let you know. I'm gonna be like, yeah, I said that. The reason why I can say that, because I'm always transparent when it's the other way around. And I'm looking at my notes right here of my first bracket that I filled out. And I had Kentucky beating St. Peter's. I had Kentucky beating USF. And I put notes and I said, this is a good draw for Kentucky. Yeah, it looks like they got a nice little easy path to the Sweet 16. Yeah, not so much. Not so much. Not at all.
That's what's crazy about this tournament, man. It is impossible to predict. It's like the upset picks that a lot of people think might happen. The popular ones are never the ones that happen. And then it's always these random things out of nowhere. I mean, I was watching, it's interesting. I was watching John Calipari after the game in his post-game press conference last night. And he was just talking about like how he was upset he just couldn't get him through that first one. And he feels like if they could have just found a way to survive and just get through that first game, maybe they settle in a little bit, go on a run. But you never know in this tournament. When it's close, the favorite gets nervous. It looked to me like they were playing kind of nervous.
Yeah.
And St. Peter's had nothing to lose, and they were the looser team.
Yeah.
I think that's the joy of the tournament, right? It's that anything can happen on any given game. And so you think that it's going to go one way. Everyone's got it booked one way. And then, like, there's no way anyone has a clean bracket. Like, in the world, I don't think that there's a clean bracket. And I don't think there has been. Like, no one has been able to show proof of a clean bracket for years now. It's the excitement of what can happen. And, it's college sports. So, you have people who went to some random school that never get to see their team on TV or anything else. But all of a sudden it's tournament time and, they're talking trash around the office. I just think that the nature of the tournament, I wish they would expand it. I wish that there was another, group, even if it was like a full, like additional round. Like, let more teams in that are good that we don't get to see, even if they just get run over in the first game. That's okay. I just, I think it's brilliant to watch, and you're watching guys that, all these 6-year seniors. You better be able to hit a 3 in crunch time. Yeah. Like you're like a father of 3. Like, at what point, it's totally bizarre what we're seeing here with college basketball, and so I love it. And all the guys jumping up and down on the sidelines, and it's fun. Like, going to Golden One. I think Golden One has the first round next year.
Yeah,
and
can't wait for that.
I'm supposed to go to the Final Four this year. We'll see.
That's right.
Oh, I'm jealous.
Yeah, I got tickets to Final Four, so I'm supposed to be in New Orleans in like a week and a half. So, should be fun.
That's going to be awesome. Hey, I want to ask both of you guys this. as we talk more about Kentucky. And Ben, you can answer first, and James, you can jump in. Is Coach Cal a good coach?
Boy, I think, yeah. I mean, he's a good.
I'm through there.
He's a good coach. The way that I look at it, he's a good coach. He's a phenomenal recruiter. Like, obviously, he's loaded every year with talent. I think he's a good coach too. I don't know if he's like the greatest X's and O's guy out there, but he doesn't need to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, well, you know what's funny is like when you were talking about like those older guys, like those 6th year seniors, I feel like that's another thing too that can help with these upsets. Is like a lot of the smaller schools, yeah, they don't have as much talent, but they've got guys that are like 23 years old playing against these 18-year-olds.
For sure.
Like they've just, it's like grown men against these 18, 19-year-olds who have a ton of talent, but they're still very raw.
Yeah. Who's the guy we saw yesterday? Doug. I can't even remember what his last name is.
Yeah, I think it was Edward.
St. Peter's, yeah.
Yeah, he's a dude who looks like Uncle Rico. You're just like,
Yeah.
What in the world is happening here? What? You guys just got beat by Doug. Like, someone said he looks like 95% of like NBA bloggers. It's like, there's no lie there. There's no lie. Yeah, I mean, it's fun. The weird age thing is just like, it's totally bizarre. There are guys literally who. The one guy for Iowa, it had like 177 college games coming in, like just crazy.
Well, and especially with the COVID year, like guys got an extra year if they wanted. So
all you had to do is like apply
for a decade.
Yeah, the blanket. Yeah,
they had Ed Cooley over at Providence. He talked about it before the tournament started, and he said he felt like it was going to be such a high level of play in this tournament because you have so many upperclassmen. You have your 6-year seniors and guys that maybe would have left 2 years ago but decided not to or weren't able to because of the COVID year, and they stayed this year. And he said that's going to lend itself to have a high level of play throughout this whole tournament. So far, it's been some good basketball. So you see, it sounds spot on so far.
Yeah. To get back to your to the Calipari question, sorry because I did skip over that. I don't think he's a good coach at all. He uses like Vance Wahlberg, who was an assistant at Sacramento with the Kings. He uses his dribble drive motion offense. It's it's a pro style offense. It's the guy who attacks the rim. It's like the 3-point shots. It's all based off of analytics and stuff like that. But when it comes down to it, like I don't think you see players develop at all there. So a player like Willie Cauley-Stein, it was almost like Groundhog Day. He started over and did the same exact things every year, and he did not get a whole lot better. He just did the same things every year, and I didn't see the development, and they push guys out the door. He calls people like De'Aaron Fox and says, you are not coming back. You understand that? Like, I already got your position filled. You're not coming back. You're going to the pros, and you need to say yes. His players love him, though, because we've had so many Kentucky guys through Sacramento. They all love him. And, they think he's an awesome guy and everything else, but I just don't think he helps develop. And I think he takes away too much from players. So you get guys to the NBA like Fox, like Tyreke Evans, that he took away their shot at the college level. And so they get to the pros and they're trying to reestablish that as part of their game. And it just hasn't been part of their game for like a year plus. And so we see sort of this dip. He doesn't have a lot of guys who come into the league and are good shooters. I mean, you can look at all the point guards, Tyreke, Derrick Rose, John Wall, all of them. They struggle with their shot early in their career, and it's because it's not drilled into them, or they don't run plays for those things to happen at the college level.
Yeah. Ben, we appreciate you, man. We can catch you tonight, Saturday and Sunday, right?
Yeah.
After all the games
hopefully,
on Sunday, right?
Hopefully we're more than 5 minutes. Yeah, tonight we're on at 9, tomorrow at 7, and then Sunday I think we're at 4. Basically after the last CBS game of the day.
Sounds good. We're going to be locked in for sure, man. Appreciate you, Ben.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. Appreciate you always coming on our show.
Always, man. We'll be right back on D-Lo and KC on Sacramento's #1 sports station, ESPN 1320. Cool. Appreciate you, Ben. Thanks.
Yeah,
We
fun to do
didn't
it, man.
even
Thanks
talk
for having me.
A's, man. Why don't we talk A's?
What's there to talk about? You're gonna lose 100 games.
Fire. Yeah,
We
look, I'm
can
miserable.
get to that. Baseball season's still a couple weeks away. You can have me back and talk A's if you ever want.
Absolutely.
Jeez.
'Cause I don't know what's going on over there. I don't know
Fire sale. Fire sale. Everything must go.
They
It's
trying
just
everything they can to get out of there.
a billionaire trying to make more money. Just crazy.
He's like top 10 wealthiest in the.
Well, and then the worst part of it is like they completely they raised season ticket prices a ton this year too.
That's just crazy.
Yeah.
And then they sent out Matt Olson jerseys for all their season ticket holders.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Wow.
That didn't reek of, we got all these Matt Olson jerseys. What are we going to do with them? Let's give them to season ticket holders. Woo!
Exactly.
That is
Yeah,
shades of Marvin Bagley jersey night.
Anytime there's a giveaway, that's what we had. Oh, that's when Marvin refused to go in the game.
That's right.
They were giving away his jersey and autographed jerseys in the upper deck to people, and like it was this awkward moment because he hadn't played forever, and it's like, yeah, we got to get rid of this trash. That like we got to clear out this stuff. And Martin like, well, that ain't cool. Well, like I ain't going to the game. Like, forget you. You just gave away my jerseys. Like, yeah.
Man.
Yeah. All right,
fellas. Well, thanks. I gotta hit the road for Sac right now. So
if you need, I think this weekend's gonna be a little crazy, but if you need me at all next weekend, let me know, man. I'll be around.
Okay, we'll be posted. Sarah gets back tomorrow, so I'm sure she'll be in touch too.
Sounds good. All right, man.
All right, man. Thanks. See you guys.
Yeah, James. Once again, man, if you need to stretch a little bit, you can.
Yeah.
All that other stuff.
Yeah, I probably need to stand up at least for a sec. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead and do that. It'll probably be as we're coming. We got like Jesse. What we got? Like a minute and a half, 2 minutes.
Oh yeah. Give me 2 seconds. I'll be back.
Minute 45. Yep. How's everything sounding? Anything good, Griffin? Okay. It's tough because you gotta. I got the off white too. I'm thinking about going myself, but yeah, I mean, it's your team's here, man. Larry Bird. We'll walk the off right another time. You got to go with your team, with the squad. Yeah, see, you got the black one or the white one? Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking about going tonight. I wasn't going to try and go on Sunday. I might even doing something with the family. So I was like, yeah, I might try and go tonight. Yeah, that's a good matchup for him. Like as far as like testing himself, testing where he's at. Bang on his head. Ham's show is going to be called DYI. It's going to be Ham's show. There we go. D-Lo and KC on a Friday afternoon. The weekend is here. Can't wait. In about 12 minutes, though, we got our weekly visit with Trista Crick. That's the D-Lo and KC homie right there. I don't know if you've ever experienced Trista. Have you, James? Well, she's a riot.
I'm intrigued.
Hilarious. Yeah. Trista's hilarious. So she'll be here in about 11 minutes or so. We'll talk about the tournament. We'll talk about any kind of betting trends. I want to ask her about what's going on in New York with the Kyrie New York mandates. That's just crazy. I'd love to hear what's going on there. But I wanted to I wanted to touch on something you had said before we went to break. We were talking about Coach Cal, and you talked about him as a coach, and I think all of that was correct. I remember watching his 30 for 30, and I was so confused after it. I was so confused because, number one, it was a great infomercial for going to Kentucky. That guy, he could sell, what did Jay-Z sell? He could sell fire to hell. He can sell ice in the winter, sell fire in hell. He's a hustler, baby. He can sell water to a well. That's what Coach Cal is, right? Like, I was sold after hearing or watching that's 30 for 30. But a lot of people think like he's slimy and he's shady and stuff like that. I don't get that vibe from Coach Cal. I feel like Coach Cal is like, these are the rules. This is what happens. I'm going to use the rules best to benefit me and to be, and I believe him when he says this, best to benefit the kid. Simple as that. Like, if you can come here for a year and get your draft position up to where you're a top 5, I understand what you guys talk about on the Kings Beat, the business of basketball. Cal understands the business of basketball. Go, get out of here. Even with Scal, it's like, Scal, you came in here as the number 2 ranked guy in the country. You played for a year and you're borderline second rounder. Go now before they find out what I know. Like, go, get out of here. You know what I mean? I think, do you think that's kind of where his mindset is with all this?
Yeah, I mean, basically, he sets it up so he has your replacement already, like, in the hopper, and so he doesn't want you there. And if you're not good enough, he's just not going to play you your second year. So if you don't make it in that first year, then you're in trouble. Like, I don't know, like, overall, like, his players do love him, like most of them, like, come out of there, but it's not like they go to college. It's not like they actually, like, go to class or anything else. Like, I hear De'Aaron talk about it on occasion. Well, Bam actually went to class. I didn't really go to class. Like, and then they leave. They're not even there for, like, really a year. As soon as the tournament's over, they're out. Like, they go straight to a trainer somewhere, and they've already been talking to a bunch of people, and they're getting ready for the draft. So it's not really the college experience. And I mean, I guess it makes some sense that you're going to have people who do that. But, it was Duke went decades without ever having a player leave early. Iverson and Victor Page were the first two to leave Georgetown early. They were the first two, and then not many people did it afterwards. Everyone stayed 4 years, and I know that that's the way it used to be. But I don't know, like, when I look at a squad like UCLA, which does not have, like, the same, success over the last, like, 10 years, 15 years of putting, players in the draft. But what they do, they have guys that are able to stick around and teach young guys the ropes, and guys like Russell Westbrook. I don't think he started at all at UCLA, and they have guys like that. A lot of guys that are really good players that just, like, you're not going to play because there's a more veteran guy in front of you, and we're not going to break the rules. We're gonna play this the way it should be. Like, guys who have been here and are in the program, they deserve the same things that guys are coming in and going to be here for a year. Right. So, yeah, I don't know.
I like that. I prefer that, obviously, in college basketball. I came up in a different time when guys stayed at least 2-3 years or whatever the case may be. But, I mean, I look at Cal, and Cal just, I think he would tell you, right, I didn't make the rules. I didn't make the environment. I just played towards it. You know what I mean? And I can't necessarily fault him for that. You know what I mean? He's just playing the game as it's been set up. And that's just what it is.
I can see that. He just, to me, he's always been more of like a used car salesman. Like, he does not, again, like, look at Bill Self. He doesn't care about, like, making really good men. that will go out in the world and be successful. That's not what his goal is. His goal is to put players in the NBA and be known as a guy who is a kingmaker, basically, who puts players in the.
I'll say this though, James. I'll push back on that a little bit. All his guys are fine in the league. Now you could say they would have been fine whether they went to Cal or not, but he doesn't. All his guys, they're fine, and I feel like when they try something slick, i.e. the DeMarcus Cousins situation, he's very protective of his guys. He does not like. I think he sets them up for adult life in a different way than Bill Self does. Bill Self is a little nurturing, a little more nurturing. He'll build you up and do that. Coach Cal just do it in a different way. Like those guys are prepared for real life NBA. He may throw like ice water in your face and be like, hey, reality check. This is what it's like. But all those guys are fun. DeMarcus, John Wall, Fox, Anthony Davis, Booker. They're all, for everything that we know, good citizens, good human beings in the NBA, haven't had any issues throughout their career. Like I said, maybe you could say they would have been that way anyway, but I'll say this. If it was the other way and Coach Cal was running something like Urban Meyer, Coach Cal would get he'd get all the blame for that. So the fact that all these guys are good, upstanding professionals, I think he deserves a little credit for that.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, but they spend like 6 months with him, you know? So realistically, a lot of these kids are who they were going to be. And most of the kids, just so you know, most of the kids that he gets are the top of the top of the top of the rung, you know. But in order to be that good, you gotta have some cash behind you to play in AAU tournaments, to have all the investments that go into a young player as a high school kid. And so he's getting kids that are really, they're other people on the back end of the kids he's getting, where I think some of the guys Bill Self gets, you know, just isn't the case. Like, again, like the Darnell Jackson story, like, I think he was 14 and his father was shot and killed by police after raping a woman like on a jogging trail. When he was like a junior in high school, his grandfather, him and his grandfather, he lived with his grandparents and his mom. His grandfather passed away. Like, I think his uncle was beaten to death with a hammer.
Jeez.
One of his best friends from high school, when he went away to Kansas in his freshman year, one of his best friends from high school was executed in like gang style execution. When he was a senior in high school, he showed up early to school to do basketball practice, found a dead classmate on campus. When he was at Kansas, his mom and his grandma got into a car accident in Las Vegas, and his grandmother was killed and his mom was maimed. And then when he was with the Cavs, before he came to Sacramento, his mom took her own life because she was in like massive pain. So when we got Darnell Jackson, he was a 23-year-old dude that looked like he was 40. And, you know, like Shaq helped save him as well, like, because he was there. And so when you get these, you get players like that, that's where like Bill Self, like Darnell Jackson tried to quit during his freshman year because of what was going on. And they sent like multiple assistant coaches and brought him back from Oklahoma to Kansas and said, no, you're not quitting. We're not letting that happen. And so that's where I get with like Bill Self, like does a really good job of like nurturing players, nurturing men and trying to help them through things. And it's not just about, you know, the top cream of the crop, top AAU players, the kids who have had a lot of privilege throughout their lives. It's about these other kids, you know. And that's not to say like De'Aaron Fox was privileged. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that there are a lot of kids at Kentucky that literally had backing for a long time. You don't get to that level if you don't have, you know, parents willing or someone willing to take you to games all the time and tournaments all the time and all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. That story was insane, man. I feel like Roy Williams is kind of like that too, or was like that when he was coaching. He was very father figure like in the way of Dean Smith. That's how he learned. But yeah, good stuff. You're listening to ESPN 1320, KIFM West Sacramento, KRXQHD2 Sacramento, and Odyssey Station, and driven by Lasher's Elk Grove Dodge. I'm Kenny Caraway. I got James Ham with me here as D-Lo is off champagning and campaigning, enjoying his weekend a little earlier. You know, enjoying the finer things in life here, and we're out here grinding here during the tournament. And you know, it's Friday. It is time for what our favorite, you know, no disrespect to nobody, no disrespect to James Ham or anything, but we got our girl Trista Crick with us. And Trista, I mean,
look at this. Isn't this insane?
I'm saying, if you're watching on the stream, Trista, first of all, she's got a whole crew. Like she is turned into Mariah Carey right in front of our very eyes, where she has an entourage. They take care of her hair, her microphone. She touches nothing now. They take care of her camera. This is beautiful. I love it.
I've never seen myself look so good as I do in HD. Like, you guys look phenomenal, but this is something I may never experience again. 3 red cameras on me, a sports book. Don't I look like I'm about to do an ad?
It does. It looks like a.
Sorry. So I got to look through this camera. See, I got directors. There's multiple directors here now.
She's got everything. This is big time. It's big time. Where are you at, Trista?
I'm at BetMGM National Harbor here in Maryland. We're doing 2 remotes. We did one last night at the VIP Sportsbook, and now we're here at the Tap Sportsbook, kind of in the back of it as well. So we've got like 1 million lights. We're going to do the full thing from 7 to 11. It's going to be awesome.
That's awesome. By the way, Damien's out. He's off today, so it's
Where is he?
He's at a wedding. He's in a wedding, you know. He's out, but I think he's really he's got his feet kicked up, you know, champagning and campaigning, as I like to say. A little glass of wine. He's shaking it around like, you know, the wine.
He's got capris on, you know that.
And that's his bag. That's his bag. You know, that's his bag. And it's not capris. They are tailored to his ankle. I got to defend my guy. They're not capris.
They have a drawstring at the bottom from Old Navy. So we know what that time that is. It's not tailored. We know that. It's not tailored. What's up, James? Hi. This is the first time me and you have met.
Yeah. Hi. How are you?
I'm great. I love your work. It's a hard road covering the Kings on a night-to-night basis. So I appreciate you. Everything that you do for the NBA, everything that you do for us.
Oh, thank you. It is a hard road. It's taken years off my life. I feel much older today than I was 12 years ago when I started.
Do you feel like you guys are on the upswing though right now? Like, do you think that there's light at the end of the tunnel? You feel like you got some pieces now? The chemistry is kind of coming around?
Yeah, I do. I think that they have two building blocks, and then they have some other nice pieces. And I think the path forward is slightly easier right now than it was before, because you can actually see the pieces that you need, the types of players that you need to add, where before it was just like, man, they have to have more talent. That's all you could say. And you couldn't put a finger on why they were so bad and so like all over the board. But now you can kind of go, okay, look, if you get more shooting, if you add this piece, and you could actually see something forming. So yeah, it's pretty good.
It's going to be exciting. I bet you guys get something good for Rashaan too.
Yeah, I think so.
You guys want to give us your pick, your Trailblazers pick for Rashaan? How does that work?
No. We don't need an undersized center. Listen, I love Rashaan, but we need something else. We need a wing. If you guys could get us like a Jason Tatum light, I want Paolo Banchero. That's who I want. Yeah. I saw him live in person, and I think he could literally score if he played for Coach Calipari or a coach that did not care about getting everybody involved and having the system and like doing things the quote unquote right way. I think Paolo could score 40 a night. Yeah. He is incredible. And the game, it looks like he's kind of like, people say he's lazy, but I think the game's just actually really easy for him. His ball handling is really good. He's got touch around the rim. He's in the right spot on the floor. He's a good team guy. He's the only vocal guy that they have. He's the one leading his own little mini timeouts in the middle of the floor as well. I really like him. I think him and Dame, if Dame's abdomen ever gets together, him, Dame, Anthony would be a nice little trio.
Yeah, I hope you guys don't get it because we need to make the playoffs. So next year. So I need you guys to just chill out. Take a project. Take a guy that's overseas that isn't going to come over for 2 years, so we can.
We'll probably take Chet. Like we'll probably find a way to get Chet, and he'll just flame out as per usual with us and Gonzaga guys and guys that are over 7 foot. So you know how it is. You know what time it is.
Speaking of Chet, how are you liking the tournament so far? Anything jump out to you? Is there money being made right now, Trista, on the tournament? What's going on?
Truthfully, I think it was a bloodbath for most people, right? We lost a lot of people lost a lot of money betting underdogs last year. I think I was like 1-15 betting underdogs last year, and this year has felt really good for a lot of underdogs. I took who did they play? It was Georgia State plus 23.5. What a sweat against Gonzaga that came down to the wire, all the way down to the wire. What else? St. Peter's beating Kentucky. I think that was a shock. That was a bracket buster. Iowa losing to Richmond. I think that's a situation tonight where you see the same thing maybe with Colgate in Wisconsin. Colgate's an 8.5 point dog, 7.5 point dog, depending on the book. But Wisconsin's a terrible 3-point shooting team. Colgate's an awesome 3-point shooting team, one of the best in the country. Wisconsin's just a team that's like grind you down. I'm not even sure if the Big Ten's any good. They beat each other up pretty much all year, right? And then you've got a stylistic difference where Colgate's never going to be out of the game. They're going to probably shoot 1,000,000 threes. And now you've got Johnny Davis, who I love, has an ankle injury. So I'm not quite sure if they're going to be able to cover that number. So I took Colgate actually plus 8.5.
Okay. All right.
Ooh, rolling the dice. What do you you saw Iowa bomb out? What did you think of Keegan Murray?
I think he's good. Here's the thing. Like, what do you guys think about how his body moves? Like, have you guys spent any time watching him run? It doesn't feel like as fluid. And maybe this is just kind of him settling in as an 18, 19-year-old kid. But he's longer. He's long, but not quite as long as Kuz, right? Kuz is like 6'10", 6'11". Right. But they're both like these lanky shooters that also have like some ball handling. I call him Diet Kuz. That's no disrespect to either party. That's no disrespect to either party, right? Because both sides would be very like upset about that. I just don't. I feel like he's a little stiff. He runs a little upright for me. His athleticism's a little like not sus, but kind of sus.
Yeah, to your point, I feel with that comparison, Kuzma moves a lot more fluid than I see Keegan Murray move. Like his ball handling, the way his spin move, a fadeaway, all this stuff is a lot more fluid and quicker, a little more quick twitchier. On Kuzma than it is Keegan Murray.
That's why I call him a wish version, because he would love to move like Kuz. And that's something. It's a comedy. It's comedy out here. It's no disrespect. It's all rooted in comedy. If he could get a good soft tissue expert, he'd be in good shape, because his body does not move fluidly for me. So I know Quentin, my co-host, loves Keegan Murray. I think his draft stock might get hurt by the fact that we don't see him nearly as much in the tournament as we all thought we would. Where do you guys think he goes? Yeah, is he even on your radar right now?
A lot of people love him here in Sacramento.
Yeah.
They want him bad. I think he's a top 10 pick, probably 7, 8, 9, something like that.
I'm going to put him at 12. I think he's going to slide a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to measure in as tall as people think, so he's going to be a bit of a stretch for a stretch 4. Yeah. And then he's not quick enough. Really, his motion isn't quick enough to be a 3. He reminds me, I've said this on the show, he reminds me of Marvin Williams. Like every once in a while you see it, you're like, oh, that was incredible. And then for the most part, you're like, okay, why don't you bring it every night, or why do you disappear, and things like that. So like I like him. He's a good shooter, but even before their conference tournament, he was like a 37% shooter from 3. And all of a sudden he lights it up 8 of 10, and he moves up to like over a 40% shooter. I think he's going to have trouble because he needed to prove that he won't disappear in games. And then he disappeared in the big game, and they lost.
Yeah. Who do you guys like?
I got Arizona going all the way. I got Arizona UCLA national championship.
No chance. I'm sorry. UCLA's not good getting that far. UCLA is very fraudulent.
No. They got St. Mary's. That's gonna be a tough one. Baylor, that's gonna be a tough one too. But if they can get past those two, I think they beat Purdue in the Elite Eight, and they're going to and I think
Purdue's gonna lose. Purdue's gonna lose as soon as they get a test.
So St. Peter's.
No. Let's look at the
That's all
bracket
that's
here.
left.
Let's look at the
Texas is
bracket
left. Maybe they
here.
got Texas, but with Kentucky going down,
Murray State's going to beat St. Peter's now. Don't sleep.
Yeah.
UCLA is losing to St. Mary's.
it's UCLA, Arizona in the championship game.
You're tripping. Come back to me. Come back to
I'm
me.
tripping off you calling Keegan Murray a DH gate Kyle Kuzma.
He would be thrilled to move like Kyle Kuzma. He would be thrilled. I think everybody would be thrilled if he moved like Kuz. And Kuz is like, I don't know. I'm slightly a Kuz fan.
I like Kuz. Does
but-
Quentin like Kuz?
Does Kuz like Kuz? Kuz loves Kuz.
No, does Quentin like?
Oh, Quentin likes Kuz too. Yeah, Quentin likes Kuz too. Who do you guys like in terms of other prospects?
We were talking about this earlier. Obviously, Chet, we love him. Jabari Smith is probably the best player in the country.
Yeah.
Jaden Ivey, every single time.
Who do you think Jaden Ivey could be?
I don't know if he could be this, but he looks just like Ja. Like everything he does looks just like Ja Morant. And I think he's a little bigger than Ja Morant too. Like that's the crazy thing about it. I don't like Ja is super special. I don't want to put that on Jaden to say that he could be that. But
is he as good of a playmaker as Ja, or is he just good like an explosive getting to the rim like Ja?
More so like that. His quickness getting to the rim, things of that. His explosiveness, that's athleticism. So he's got that. But like you said, he's not. I don't look at him as a point guard like Ja was though.
So is he big enough to be a 2?
Yeah, I think he's big enough to be a 2. I think the problem that he has is at the college level, he's not asked to do the playmaking. I mean, his ability to get to the rim, I saw him make some nice drop-off passes. He reminds me of maybe a mixture between Ja and DeJounte. So when DeJounte came into the league, he turned the ball over like 5 times a game. Like every game, it was like, is he going to turn it over 3 times or 7? And so I think we're going to see a lot of that from him just because he's out of control, reckless. But I like his athleticism, his speed and quickness, his ability to change direction. Just on a dime. I would love to see him and Fox like dueling banjos together where he can play off the ball and attack. But I don't think he's a good enough shooter, and I don't think he's a good enough defender for the Kings.
That's kind of what I'm thinking too. Like as a 2, you kind of need to be like it's inherent in the name, isn't it?
Yeah,
inherent in the name.
Yeah. Hey Trista, before we let you go, we got like a minute and a half. Does Kyrie Irving play playoff basketball at the Barclays Center?
No.
You don't think it's going to happen?
So I've done some digging and I've done some research on these laws. I think in the last few weeks, over 1,000 New York employees have been fired over not being vaccinated. So if they change it for Kyrie, they have to change the law. And it's not like just the mandate. It's not like something that is just like masks or no masks or not. It's a full law where private employees of New York City can't work unless they're vaccinated, and people are losing their jobs for that. So if you were to do that, then what do you do with all those thousands of workers who have been fired because of it?
Yeah.
And now there's like implication after implication. I mean, it's certainly possible, but I think once I've dug into the legislation element of it, it feels less and less likely than I thought. And we always think like, okay, Kyrie should be able to get it done, but I don't think it's as simple as that.
Trista,
I'll add this too. I'll add this really quickly. I thought it was funny. He said, "Oh, I should just get a badge and be a media member, and then I can do whatever I want." And we all have to have, as an NBA mandate, we all have to have our boosters. You have to have full vaccination.
Yep.
So
yeah, Kyrie's a trip. He's a trip. I love him though.
He's so talented though.
Yeah, I love watching him play basketball. Individually, I don't know what he'd be talking about, but Trista, Crick, you are living the dream right now. You got
it's crazy.
You got your makeup people. They move the camera a couple times to center you. You're living the dream.
The camera's so good. I just did my makeup and it just looks good. Like this is just me doing my makeup.
You enjoy the rest of the tournament, and we'll talk to you next week.
Nice meeting you. Nice to meet you, Ham. See you later.
Yeah, you too.
Trista, Crick, BetMGM tonight. You can hear it. You can also hear on the Fan. I don't know if we're supposed to do that, but I gotta look out for the homie. Trista Crick. So James, we're gonna take a quick break. We'll come back. I want to talk to you about Arco Arena. I want to talk to you about the Oakland A's, and I still want to talk to you about these Sacramento Kings because I got some questions to ask you. We got all of that on Sacramento's #1 sports station, ESPN 1320. Man, she was like on the set of PTI.
Yeah, I haven't been on with you guys with her. She's a hoot.
Yeah, Trista's hilarious.
I gotta find a game.
She
Like
is
The Price is Right is on my TV.
Oh yeah, no, Miami SC, that's the one right now. Yeah. Hey, so Jesse, how does that? I don't even want to mess around with it. If we're broadcast, well, we're not broadcasting the game because we're on here, but we could go live on the radio feed. Yeah, I'm with it. I try it. Let's monitor this Miami SC game. Yeah,
I haven't done a lot. Has Mobley stepped up?
I haven't seen the numbers. I see him out here, and I've seen him make a couple of buckets, but I don't know what his numbers are looking like tonight.
Where is that game?
That is, I'm on the app. Oh, it's on True TV. Find it, James. Find it. Don't look at the guide.
I am looking at the guide, like trying to pan down.
Okay. So you need me to read something you said, Jesse? Okay. Let's dip to Westwood 1 for the conclusion of this, something like that.
Rambo First Blood Part 2 is on. Maybe I'll just stop there.
I don't remember any of the Rambos.
Oh, really? Yeah, the original is just spectacular film.
Securing the Bagley, Mobley 11, 5, and 7 assists. That's pretty good. He's a good little ball player, man.
Am I doing a prison pose? I don't even know what that means, Delivery Joe. I've got a leg issue. I have to have my leg up.
The baby daddy, Ham looking like KC, did something wrong. Oh no. We're gonna get there. Raider fans, you guys can celebrate and have a good time because we definitely gonna get there.
Faux show.
Did you see that that little video clip I posted of Wilt Chamberlain rejecting the skyhook twice? Oh my gosh. I'm about to tag you in it right now because the second one is dope. The first one seems impossible. I don't even know how this happens.
It's, they're the skyhook. Which story did I tell on D-Lo? Oh, yeah. Yeah, the Darnell Jackson story.
Man.
I'm like, what story did I tell? Oh, did you tag me?
Yeah. The first one the second one is impressive too, but the first one I'm like, yo, how did that happen?
And it's like, oh, that's all you got? That's all you can do? And even, just so you know, the second one, because Kareem is so huge, that was on the way down.
I thought that was a goaltend.
Yeah.
I thought that was a goal. But just like, you hear all the time that's the most unblockable shot in the game. And it is, like, because it's unblockable, except Wilt was able. That first one, the way he goes up and gets that, my goodness.
Yeah. No.
Oh, hold on.
That's where. Yep.
James won't hear it, you said, huh? Yeah, let's do it. Let's throw a bone to our radio people. Well, we always look out for the stream, rightfully so, but let's throw a bone to. Okay. James, just the heads up, if FC in Miami is down to like a last second shot, we're going to go live to it on the radio and we'll just kind of sit in silence.
Okay.
You won't be able to hear it either, but all right. We come
it's fun. You guys, you do what you got to do.
Here we go. Whoa. Yeah. D-Lo and KC. Kenny Caraway at the helm with my main man, James Ham, filling in. James, this is a long day for my man, James Ham. He's going to be at Kings Celtics tonight at the Golden One Center as well, right?
Yeah, I'll leave straight out of this chair, jump into another seat in my car, and then drive all the way down and sit down again. Yeah, for another 3 hours of riveting Kings basketball.
You know what? And I think it will be riveting. I said the other day, when you talk about this Kings team, I think it was before the Milwaukee game. And, people were like, oh, well, this is a loss. And it was a loss or whatever the case may be. But I was like, this team, with the way they're playing and the way things are going, I feel like the games aren't boring. I think they have a shot to beat anybody. Will they? Probably not just beat anybody. But is this what it feels like to look at like a real NBA team? We're like, hey, it's not all doom and gloom. Like, there's a game tonight and you could win against another playoff team. That's kind of what I feel like with this team right now.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I mean, I'm just going to point out they're 21 games under 500. So,
goodness. And they're 4-10 since the trade too, by the way. They're not winning these games.
Yeah. They, but you're competitive. And, like we always talk about this in beginning of the season. Like, sometimes you have to learn how to compete, which is like crazy that teams have to go through that process where they have to learn how to compete on a nightly basis. They're so used to competing against each other in practice, and when they get to the real games, it just doesn't feel right, and for some reason they're off. So you got to learn how to compete. Then you got to learn how to stay in a game and make it close, and then you have to learn how to win. And we're like, this season started out, it was like, hey, look, we don't have to worry about the competing thing, and so they go like 6-6, right? And you're like, okay, this thing isn't that bad. And then they stop competing completely, and you're like, what in the world happened? Just as they were figuring out how to win games, they stopped competing. And so now I feel like we're seeing this crazy compete, and they can build a 20-point lead against anyone. That we've seen that, like, any team they can build a 20-point lead against.
Right.
They can lose that lead to any team.
Probably that lead.
Yeah, and then they're struggling with that final aspect, which is understanding how to close out games. And I think Fox turned the ball over 4 times in the final 3 minutes in their last game. But I'm going to blame a lot of that on the hand and him just not being able to pass thing. Like, it wasn't sharp. He wasn't sharp. So yeah, I am hearing we'll hear more on the Fox situation relatively soon.
Okay.
Which probably, just so people know, that's probably not a good thing. Yeah, because updates, like, we get medical updates before, like, as opposed to, game time decision, then that usually means that there's something there. So,
and this would be considered a game time decision. Like, if it came in the next hour, is that, like, when you talk, you might get an update soon in the next hour or two? Like, is that a good sign? If it's, the earlier, the better? Or?
No, I would say the earlier, the worse. Yeah, because that usually means that someone's crafting a press release. I could be wrong. We'll have to wait and see. But I definitely, when you look at what's going on with him, there's a good chance that if it is something, it'll probably be something that, could potentially cost him quite a few games here down the stretch.
Yeah. And as much as I want them to play together, as much as I want them to build some type of chemistry and things of that nature, you got to, if there's even a sense that this could get worse by playing, or if somebody slaps down on it before it's ready to heal, like, you put them in bubble wrap and don't touch them for at least a couple of games to make sure that's good to go.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked about it at the beginning of the show how, they are still only 4 games out, 4.5 games out, whatever. Like, you can't really think that way if you're the Kings. Like, this draft pick has so much value if it moves up into the top 2, 3. I mean, we're talking about, like, the potential to change a franchise. At number 6, number 7, number 8, not franchise changing, but that doesn't mean you can't get really good value for it in trade. But the higher you get in a draft, the more potential you have, A, for trade, or B, to get a player that is a franchise changing player. And so, if he is out the rest of the season, which I don't know that he is, but if let's just say we find out something that, he's got something in his hand that they just discovered.
Right.
And he's not going to be, that's not necessarily a bad thing for the Kings. Like that means that Davion's probably going to start the rest of the season. Means that Dante DiVincenzo is going to get a lot more time. The biggest thing I would say if he is going to go out is that we miss this opportunity to see him and Dante together.
Right.
And that's something that should have happened 5 games ago and hasn't still. So we're just kind of waiting to see, where we're at with this. It's an injury. I mean, like, are you hurt or are you injured? Mm-hmm. And when we get to this part of the season, I don't think there's a huge distinction because you're 21 games under 500 with 11 games left. Like, you should not be talking play-in or playoff or anything else because you are a bad team. This team might not win 30 games. Like, and in my 12 seasons, like, we're looking at like the Westfall Keith Smart era to go back to 25 games, stuff like that.
So you kind of touched on something a little bit right there. And we're going to go there. We're going to go there right now, James. I was listening to the Kings beat, kind of tapped into it a little bit there. I need you to bring that over here to D'Lo and KC. Dante DiVincenzo.
Yep.
Has not started yet. Well, he started when Justin was gone. Justin came back. He didn't start. You asked Alvin about it. He gave what I thought was a little strange answer. Listen to the Kings beat. You talk about how I'll let you explain it the way you want to, but typically in those situations, everybody's coming down on Gentry like, what are you thinking? What are you doing? Yada, yada, yada. Not 100% his call, right?
Yeah, it's not. I mean, like, look, this is the way franchises are run is there's a synergy between the coaching staff and the front office. And if there isn't, then we end up with Michael Malone, Pete D'Alessandro situation where it like disintegrates very quickly and things happen badly. But especially when you're in a position like Alvin Gentry is, like, he's a caretaker for the remainder of the season. He has an interim tag, right? And so that means that, number one, he's trying to get the regular job for next season. So he's tried to win. But also, number two, he understands that if he is going to stay in good graces with the franchise, he's going to listen to what they want. And what they want and what fans want or what agents want or what players want are, like, all of those things are totally different. So when Alvin Gentry is looking at this situation, he has to figure out, like, how exactly do I, like, traverse this minefield, right? I want to win games, but can I win with this player versus this player? So even we can look at the beginning of the season where Marvin Bagley doesn't play in he played once in like the first 15 games or something. Part of that was that Luke Walton didn't want to put him in the rotation because he didn't fit what he wanted to do. He wanted to stretch 4. He wanted the ability to space the floor from that position because he already knew he was starting Rashaan Holmes and De'Aaron Fox, who don't typically hit 3-point shots or, aren't great 3-point shooters. So that was a big reason. But let's not fool ourselves and think that the front office had nothing to do with that. If the front office wanted Marvin Bagley playing in the game, he would have played in the game. And so I'll kind of like, when we get to a certain point, you have to remember that Marvin Bagley had and I'm just using Marvin as an example in this situation. Marvin has a $11.3 million qualifying offer if he reaches the starter criteria, right? So if he started, I think it was 41 games on the season, it might have been 42, then he gets an $11.3 million qualifying offer. If he does not hit that number, his qualifying offer drops to $6.3 million. So we're not going to pretend that the front office hasn't gone to a head coach and said, look, we need to limit what he's doing. Do not start him this amount of games. And then you get to a certain point in the season where it's like, okay, look, we're going to trade Marvin, but we need to show everybody in the league that he's fine, that he's healthy. So go out there and play him. I want you to start him because we know we're not going to reach the starter criteria because he already sat 20 games and there's no way he can get there. Yeah. So like this is where like all franchises are having these negotiations between the coaching staff and the front office. And we look at the situation with your guy, Cam Reddish. Mm-hmm. He gets traded to the Knicks, and then all of a sudden Tom Thibodeau goes like, I didn't want him, so I'm not going to play him. Mm-hmm. And so you have this like really bad dynamic between the front office, who went out and just gave up a first-round pick for a player, and the coaching staff. And so at this point, like any decision that's happening, it's not just Alvin Gentry's decision. I mean, if it was just Alvin Gentry's decision, he would be the coach next year as well. You know, like they would have given him a longer contract to work into next season. Mm-hmm. So we know that like Alvin is gonna have some say in this, but also that the front office has some say. Now, how much say they do have, if there is a situation where they're trying to hold Donte DiVincenzo back so he doesn't play enough minutes to really like show that he's fully healthy and that he's a really good player outside of Milwaukee, so they can retain him for a lesser dollar this offseason, that's really short-sighted. Mm-hmm. And I hope that isn't fully what's happening here, but I'm not going to, I mean, there's a reason why Donte DiVincenzo has yet to start. Right. And the reason why I push for him to start is because, like, look, I think when you're evaluating players, you need to evaluate them in their current situation. Donte DiVincenzo can look one way playing along 4 All-Stars in Milwaukee. And then when he gets to Sacramento, he can look like a completely different player because he's asked to do more, or he's asked to do less, or he's asked to do something totally different. Like you need to see him in what will be the environment that he'll be in next year. We already saw him play with Davion Mitchell. We've seen that pairing. We know that that's fun and exciting, and it's like a defensive juggernaut between the two of them. One of them is a total gambler. One of them is like a lockdown defender. Between the two of them, we're seeing steals. We're seeing like a fun brand of basketball. But if Donte DiVincenzo is going to be a starter next season for the Sacramento Kings, you need to see him as a starter next to De'Aaron Fox and see if that pairing works.
Yeah.
We've already seen how a pairing of Tyrese Halliburton and De'Aaron Fox did not work. Now, could that have worked over the long time? Yes, it could have worked over, I think if you would have given them 2-3 years together, this would have been a really good dynamic backcourt. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that they did something wrong when they traded him for Sabonis, because I don't think they did. I think they did what was right for the team. Yeah. But, and that's my personal opinion. But when I look at this situation now, like this, whatever the reason is that Donte DiVincenzo isn't starting, I don't get it. Because there's enough here to say that you've already seen enough of him in one situation. But if you're going to spend $10 million this summer, which is probably around what he's going to get like a 3-year 30 or a 4-year 40 or maybe a 4-year 48. He's going to get like a mid-level exception. Mm-hmm. A lot of teams in the league don't have money, but a lot of teams in the league have their MLE. So he's going to get that almost assuredly from somebody, and the Kings have the right to match. And if I'm going to spend roughly $10 million a year on a player, I got to know that he works. I got to know that I'm not $20 million deep into my shooting guard position and I don't have a starter. Right. Because that's where they would be. You're looking at $10 million for Donte, $6 million for Justin, and another $4 million for Terrence Davis. I got to know that I have a starter, and I'm not spending $20 million and not knowing that. And so I want to put him in the lineup, and even a 10-game stretch gives you enough that you can kind of see what you have.
Right. And I was put perfectly there, but now you might have missed your opportunity to see him with the De'Aaron Fox. And De'Aaron Fox is out for a number of different games, and they they decide
if he is,
whatever the case may be, that like you missed that opportunity. Now here's the other thing about that is do you first of all, when you talk about the organization, this is something that goes on around the NBA, correct? This isn't necessarily exclusive to what goes on with the Kings. Like the whole, it's not 100% the coach's call. That's something that goes on everywhere, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's situational, right? So, like, if you have an established coach that's been there and he's going to be there, and that's you're rolling with somebody, that's one thing. And that's not to say that that Alvin Gentry isn't going to be given at least some consideration this summer. I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is, like, he still has an interim tag,
Right.
and whatever he's going to do, we got past the point where Alvin, like, his opportunity to take the job for next season, we're done with that. Like, he wasn't able to turn this thing around. He wasn't able to get you to the play-in or the playoffs, which would have triggered I think he had some sort of trigger in whatever it was. If there was a record, or they made the play-in or they made the playoffs, then he would have, like, an opportunity, right? So that was lost when you dropped all those games in the middle of the season and you weren't competitive. So now what we're at here in this situation is the end of a bad season where, you're probably looking at a coaching change. And so there are going to be some training wheels that go with this, right? They're going to be like, even though Alvin is a veteran guy, someone is going to make a decision and say, hey, look, I want to see Trey Lyles because we have a $2.6 million team option on him next year. I need to see Trey Lyles. And I need to see some Justin Holiday. I now know what Justin Holiday is, but I need to see more of the Trey Lyles situation because he's a stretch four and he seems to be working with Sabonis. You know what? So you'll have a team say that. And then, like, hey, as opposed to playing Mo Harkless as a franchise, we would prefer to see Chimezie Metu and give him one last run to see if he's the right fit. Again, we're looking at player archetypes here. So Trey Lyles and Chimezie Metu might be the two most diametrically opposed players that you could have on the Kings roster. One is a high flyer and not completely refined, but has all this crazy athleticism and is fun. One is a ground-based guy who bullies people and hits his shots from the outside. So, like, again, I might not have either of those guys in my roster next year, but what I want to know is, does the stretch four work? Does the highly athletic guy work with Sabonis and with Fox? So you're testing all of these different things all the time. And, like, look, those are franchise decisions. That's not a decision that coaches get all the time. There are times where players are going to, look at Portland. They sat everybody, and, like, Simons and Nasir Little are going to be the guys. I want to see them playing 35 minutes a night plus. And then, of course, Little gets hurt. And then they shut down Simons because they were winning too much. And now they're like, oh, no, that's not what we meant. We meant play those guys and lose. We didn't mean that. So they want their draft pick. Yeah, so it's really an interesting situation where you're judging all of these things at one time. And I don't want to play too hard on one team. On one group here and say, look, the front office is completely meddling. But at the same time, there are some things that are some maybe questionable things that we're hearing a little bit of that makes you pause and makes you feel slightly uncomfortable.
Yeah, and I'll say this, and I'm not saying it to say anybody is right or wrong, but if I think I'm on the same page as you and on the same page as the organization, in my opinion, where Alvin Gentry's not going to be here next year. If that's the case, why would you give him complete control over your roster, right? Or who's playing? Like, he's not the guy that's going to be here. So if you want to see some things, if you want to see how this guy works out, or I don't necessarily agree with the whole holding him out to try and cheapen his value or whatever the case may be.
I don't either.
Yeah, you got some control over it. You handle that. Now, I'm not messing with the guy's money if I'm him, especially if and I believe them when they say things like we've been trying to get Dante DiVincenzo. Well, if you like him so much, you're probably going to bring him back at, I don't want to say whatever cost, but you know what I mean. Like, it'd have to be an astronomical price for you not to bring him back. So you're probably going to bring him back. So why create that bad energy, those bad vibes of possibly costing him $1, $2, $3, $4, $5 million for what? Like, let him get whatever his value is going to be, match that or whatever the case may be, and get in his good graces and let him know that this is how you do business here in Sacramento and this is how you take care of your players. I don't get that whatsoever if that is part of their thinking with trying to keep him out of the starting lineup or whatever.
Yeah, I think there's some uneasiness. Like, why are you not starting him? Like that's and it's it's uneasiness, not just with the media, but with the player, with people around the player. There is like, what is going on here? He started 66 games for the Milwaukee Bucks last season, who went on to win the NBA championship. And the only reason he wasn't a starter in the championship is because he tore a tendon off the bone in his ankle. So that's the only reason he wasn't a starter on a championship team. So you put him on a 25-win team and he's not starting. And Justin Holiday, a 32-year-old veteran who, journeyman, is starting. Like, that's a head scratcher. It is. Like, you don't have to have like an advanced degree in an MBA like understanding to look at it and go, what is exactly going on and why is that happening? And are you going to do damage? Are you going to do damage to the relationship between the player and the franchise, which is what we saw with clearly what we saw with Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield was so angry the day he signed his contract. He thought he got completely ripped off with his contract. And he's making $25 million that first year. But he just thought he just completely got screwed over in the negotiations. But we also saw it this summer. Like, man, Rashaan Holmes, he fired his agent so fast after that situation where, like, there should have been other places for him to go where he could have made more than the early bird exception at $10 million to start. There, like, the fact that there wasn't is just stunning to me. And the Kings had an ability to clear up more space if they really needed to. They could have dumped Marvin Bagley for like a second round pick and to OKC and just dumped his money type deal, right? But like, you put a situation in place where Rashaan Holmes clearly wasn't like 100% satisfied with what happened in the offseason. And I know sometimes that's hard negotiations and stuff. Other times it's like you gotta do what's best to keep people in a good frame of mind. And that's where I would kind of look like we need to see Donte DiVincenzo, like, he's coming out and talking to the media every day because he's playing really well.
Right.
He should be starting. The fact that he put up 15 points the game before and was really good, and then he goes up against his former team, the one time he'll get to play his former team and you don't let him start.
Yeah.
That it almost felt like almost spiteful, and I know it wasn't, but that's what it almost feels like. And have Gentry say, I almost started him. Like, okay, why did you not? Because that was what I asked.
Yeah.
Like, are we going to see a point where he is starting next to Fox? And now there's an outside possibility that we won't get to see that, unfortunately.
And look, judging by the vibes that James Ham got from talking to Donte DiVincenzo, you don't want to get on his bad side. It's stone cold Donte DiVincenzo, just intense as James.
He's
Ham.
intense, man. I like him, but he's intense.
Hey, you know
like,
what?
Every once in a while,
this franchise needs an intense guy like that. Hey, they need a little stone cold Donte DiVincenzo. Oh, hell yeah. Let me, where we go? Break the glass when Donte comes into the starting lineup. We got all that. Hey, James, we're going to step out real quick. When I come back, we will get to the NFL. We got to talk about Devontae Adams going to Las Vegas. We got to talk about where that leaves Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. We'll touch even more on this Deshaun Watson situation because this was a bombshell. And what does it all mean for Jimmy Garoppolo and the San Francisco 49ers? We'll get into all that here on D-Lo and KC. It's your man KC. It's James Ham filling in for D-Lo today. And you are on Sacramento's #1 station for sports coverage and Kings coverage, ESPN 1320. I'm going to slide up real quick, James. I'll be right back, bro.
Yep.
You can leave the chatty house too if you need to. If you need to get up, do what you got to do. Chatty house.
No, I'm okay.
You got to stretch.
Wait, did USC lose?
Yeah, crazy finish. Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, the talk about Kuzma. I agree. Talking about Kuzma isn't fun because Kuzma would have actually played. He would have been a good fit here in Sacramento. And if that deal had happened, that would have been good for the Kings. Let's see, do we have anything else in the chatty house we need to talk about? Let's see. This is a good question. Why in Hades would Gentry be brought back? I'll just tell you this, like, while I watched this season unfold the way that it did, Gentry took over a broken team, totally, in my opinion, completely broken. And when you take over a broken team, sort of all bets are off. And what we're seeing from Gentry here in the last couple of weeks is, to me, a coach who all of a sudden has more tools in his toolbox to work with. And I've seen some really, really inventive stuff. And I don't know if all of it is Gentry, but I certainly understand that they're opening up the playbook, and that's a good thing. And having a guy like Sabonis allows you to do that. So while I'm not saying like that he's the answer, I'm also going to be honest and say, like, I don't know that he can't be. He was just in a really, really, he was in a tough spot. And now we're seeing like more creativity, all that stuff. Jason View, can I go fishing at your lake? Probably not, because you can't get inside the gate. And I don't know you, so I'm not calling you in. But there are huge big mouth bass in the lake that I live on. And even, like in the lake that I live in, there's all kinds of stuff. But it's a catch and release lake. Would Wagner have been a better pick if he was available over Davion? At this point, yeah, I think we know that he would be. But, he wasn't. And that would have depended on the Kings judging of him. Like, I do know the Kings like Josh Giddey. If he would have fallen to 9, I think that would have been a good spot too. Brissett's like a perfect fit with Mr. Halliburton. He's one of the beneficiaries of the pick and roll action that is Tyrese Halliburton. And so just so people know, like, do not sell yourself short on how good of a coach Rick Carlisle is. Rick Carlisle is a spectacular coach, and he's going to be in Indiana for a long time, even though their record's horrible. They have a game plan. Yeah. I'm just going through the chatty house and answering questions.
Yeah, a little Q&A. Hey, Jesse, can you hear me? Are you back in there, Jesse? Hey, how does the audio sound when you're on here? Because I was thinking maybe last 10 minutes you rap with me when Ham has to leave. Even if I pull you up on the thing, it doesn't sound good. Got you. Okay, no worries. No worries. All right, we'll come back. Yes, indeed. Today is a good day on D-Lo and KC. It's just your man Kenny Caraway in here. Damien is, champagne and campaign and have a good time. I got my main man James Ham in the building with me today. And Damien, he's going to be upset that he missed today. I think he's going to be upset because the NFL is popping off. James, I have a saying usually when people try to talk to me about the NFL around these times of year. There's an old line from the Five Heartbeats, one of the great movies of all time, when the shady Suge Knight-like music producer, the label owner, somebody tries to talk to him about his contract, and it was like, 7:00 at night. And guy comes in there and he says, "Hey, I need to talk to you about my deal. I need my money, Red. I need my money, Red." And he says, "Look, my office hours are 9 to 5. He says, "Nah, man, we ain't waiting. I'm talking. I need to talk right now." So I'm gonna tell you right now, my office hours are 9 to 5. Drive in. Guy wasn't having it. So Red and his goons beat the mess out of the dude and slap him all around and hang him out of like the 10th-story window. He says, "Now, once again, I'm going to ask you, when are my office hours?" He says, 9 to 5, please let me up. They're 9 to 5. I won't bother you. Whatever the case may be, right? That's how I felt about football. My football hours are August to February. Okay? Don't talk to me about the NFL in April, in June. My football hours are August to February. Well, you know what? Making me work overtime right now because the NFL is going up. The NFL is going up. And we obviously have the Deshaun Watson to the Browns deal that took place today. Deshaun Watson traded to the Browns. I'm not sure if they confirmed the confirmation or the compensation just yet. Last time we saw, Adam Schefter thought it was going to be 3 first-round picks, a 3rd, and a 5th. And Cleveland will be giving him a new 5-year, I think it was 239, 5-year, 230, 100% guaranteed. He will get every dollar of that 230. That was crazy. 80 million more than the previous record for a fully guaranteed money at signing. So that's where the Browns have made the decision to go with Deshaun Watson. They won the day. But the team that won the day yesterday, James, was the Las Vegas Raiders. Because out of nowhere, in a stunner, in a shocking turn of events, they got Devontae Adams from the Green Bay Packers. And I didn't see this one coming at all. I'd heard some rumblings about Devontae saying, "Look, I'm not signing for no franchise. Like, you're not going to franchise me. I'm not going to be happy with that. Give me all the money that I'm deserved, and that's how we'll get this done." I thought they'd get that figured out, but shortly after we went off the air yesterday, Devontae Adams to the Raiders, teaming back up with his college teammate Derek Carr. They made beautiful music at Fresno State. This is a big one right here, Ham. This is a big one.
It's huge. Like, I saw someone tweet out that this makes the Raiders a title contender. Come on now. Come on now. I don't buy that.
But they're just playing in the toughest division maybe in the last 20 years in the NFL.
Well, they're playing in a conference that, you know, has Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and Joe Burrows. I mean, come on now. Like, and all of those teams have big time players that go with the, you know, you're talking about Tyreek Hill, you're talking about, you know, Chase and you know, like these teams are loaded. All of them are loaded. So no one is putting anyone in the Super Bowl in the AFC at this point because it's just everyone is so good. But I think it's a dynamic move because Carr really hasn't had this type of guy. And this is that moment where, like, first of all, receivers never get traded and like just go off in their prime. It's very, very seldom that you see someone like go from one team to the next and they're just the same player. But I think this is like the all-in move for Carr. Like, if you know, it's his college teammate, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, and if Carr can't continue to make Adams an all-pro, then it exposes him greatly. If he comes into this season and he looks a lot like Amari Cooper, then there's a problem, and you're going to have to address that at a later date. But this is a swing for the fence move of swing for the fences moves. I mean, this is one of the most talented wide receivers in the league. He's a player that it doesn't matter how many players you throw at him, he still is wide open on every single possession. Yeah. And I don't know how. I mean, I guess Aaron Rodgers knew about this beforehand.
Yeah,
before he signed his contract, that's what we're hearing.
Aaron Rodgers, he was getting paid. He don't care about that.
Yeah, I mean,
he's trying to get that bread.
But what do you do here? I mean, last season he had 169 targets, 123 catches for 1,553 yards, and 11 touchdowns. How do you replace that?
You don't.
And you know, they've done a good job. Like it's been, you know, the the Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers era of Green Bay Packers, just greatness, because they have been really, really good almost that entire time.
Mhm.
They've had an ability to create wide receivers. And so I'm not going to put it past Aaron Rodgers to create another wide receiver, because, look, you go back to Sterling Sharp, you got Antonio Freeman, you got Donald Driver, you have so many guys that they've created, and, Jordy Nelson, Greg Jennings, these are all high-end wide receivers, and they're very specific. They're able to make guys great.
Right.
And then if you look at what this current group is, even, Randall Cobb had huge seasons, but now Randall Cobb is old, and, Alan Lazard caught 40 balls last year, was a second leading wide receiver on the team, behind the running backs. Valdez Scantling. These guys weren't good enough to be a number 2.
Right.
And that team was they were in on OBJ. They couldn't get him. So now not only do you need to find an OBJ, you need to find a Devontae Freeman. And maybe you can get that in the first round, in the second round. But even still, that's tough. That's really tough. Yeah, James Jones. Yeah. So, you know what I mean? There is, it really does put, how do you fix this if you're Green Bay? And you only got, Aaron Rodgers might have 2-3 years left, and you just took away his primary weapon. And now what do you do with that position? How do you make your team better? And so the Raiders got considerably better. And the 22nd pick in the draft and a second-round pick, that's costly, but realistically, it's not.
To get Devontae Adams, you do that every day of the week and twice on Sundays. To your Packers point, Aaron Rodgers, we saw it in that divisional game against the 49ers. Once the 49ers doubled and sometimes maybe even triple teamed Devontae Adams, Aaron Rodgers didn't have the confidence in anybody else to go to them, to look for them or anything like that. One of the fateful plays in that game was a 3rd and 10, where I think Adams, 3rd and 10 late in the game, I think it was when it was tied, and Adams goes on a deep post. Niners are double teaming Adams, and Lazard, I think it was, is running across that wide open in the middle of the field. If they would have converted that one, it would have been a big time play for the Packers. Aaron Rodgers wasn't even thinking twice. He said, I'm going to Devontae double coverage 40 yards down the field, and I'm going to take my chances. And the situation lends itself to these receivers not knowing. See, we don't know if these receivers are any good or not, or Aaron Rodgers just didn't give him the opportunity to step up because he was never looking for him. So that's something that we'll figure out. But Jesse asked the question. He said, are the Packers a top 5 team in the NFC? I don't think so. I'm looking at the Niners. I'm looking at the Rams. I'd put the Cowboys ahead of the Packers. You might want to put Tampa Bay ahead of them. Arizona might be on that list as well. Philadelphia, depending on what they do with their draft picks in the quarterback position. I think without Devontae Adams, all those teams may end up being better than the Green Bay Packers. Hell, Minnesota might be able to get with the Green Bay in that division now with no Devontae Adams. So that's huge.
Look at those wide receivers there in Minnesota. Like,
100%. Well,
they don't have anyone like that in Green Bay now. I mean, you got 3 guys who are just really exciting. Yeah, it to me, it's a strange move, and I get it. Freeman wanted to go to the Raiders. That's like what we're hearing. He wanted to go there. Yeah. He wanted to play with Carr, and I get it. But man, that's crazy. I mean, sometimes you got to say no. Sometimes he says, "Hey, take the money here. You're not getting. We're just going to keep franchise tagging you, and you're going to stay here."
Reportedly, he said he wasn't going to play though. He said, "I'm just not going to play. You franchise me, I'm not going to play." Yeah. So at that point, I guess you got to ask your question. You ask yourself, if you're the Packers, how far do we want to play this game of chicken? You know what I mean? And I guess they said we don't want to go very far down this road. Here, get out of here. Here, go to Vegas. You're listening to ESPN 1320 KIFM West Sacramento, KRXQ HD2 Sacramento on Odyssey Station, and driven by Lasher's Elk Grove Dodge. It's Kenny Caraway. It's James Ham here on D-Lo and KC. D-Lo has the day off. We're out here getting you into your weekend here, closing down this Friday. And the one thing I will say about this, James, from the Raiders' perspective, is that the division is crazy. The conference is crazy. We all know that. The division itself is crazy. But what they have on that offensive end, when you talk about Derek Carr, who I like as a quarterback, you got Jacobs. I like him at the running back position. And then you talk about the weapons on the offensive end. Devontae Adams, Hunter Renfrow, Darren Waller. I mean, they look like they could be explosive on the offensive end. Now, as I did a little more research about this, one of the things they're going to have to shore up is that offensive line, because that could lend itself to not even having time to get the ball to these playmakers. But when you talk about playmakers in general, the Raiders got that. They got that. I'm really interested to see how this plays out in the AFC West, because I mean, the Raiders, who I think their Super Bowl odds only went from 60-1 to 50-1 after this deal. I don't know. They could be sneaky. They could be really sneaky because of what they can do on the offensive end.
Well, they certainly can be fun. I mean, that's for sure. They can be a lot of fun. I think that's where, like, losing your number one and your number two picks is going to be really difficult, because they do need offensive linemen, and they need guys that can step in like right away and really help this team solidify. It's kind of classic Raiders, right? Like, they always do things that are a lot more flashy than functional. So, like, again, when you traded Khalil Mack and then you didn't have a single pass rusher, well, it sure does expose your defensive backfield when you don't have a pass rush. And so they lose that whole season because they don't have that type of player. So at a certain point, if they knew they were going to do something like this, and we're already hearing that there was some grumblings of this a little while, why didn't they attack the offensive line like really, really hard in free agency? And
Yeah,
I guess it's not too late, but
yeah, they still got some guys out there, but they went and got Chandler Jones, and that's another big pickup, getting somebody like that to get after the quarterback. So I like what the Raiders have done in the offseason. I really do. Although, so I feel like I think about this every offseason. This time every year, I think about this, and because deals are made, people are making moves, and people go, "Oh, look at what they've put together. They're going after it. They're looking really good." Yeah. The most famous aspect of this is the dream team in Philadelphia when the Eagles went out and got, I think it was Michael Vick, Nnamdi Asomugha. They got like 3 or 4 other free agents in one day, and they were primed to win the Super Bowl. And I don't think they made the playoffs that year. And I always wonder, like, do we do this every year with some of the teams? And I did a little research, James. I didn't go too far back. I didn't have a whole lot of time to do it, but I did a little research. I went to 2019, and about this time, I think it was the article I got it from, was the SB Nation report. I think it was like March 16th, whenever free agency started that year. And they had the winners and losers from free agency in the first week. In 2019, the first winner was the Cleveland Browns. The article says the Browns followed up their best season since 2017 by making major moves on the trade market and in free agency. Now they'll enter the 2019 season with 2 of the Giants' top playmakers, Oliver Vernon and Odell Beckham Jr., a pass rushing presence who can feast on the chaos created by Vernon and Myles Garrett, edge attack and Sheldon Richardson, and an inside linebacker who can fill the void left behind by Jamie Collins and roughly 60%. That's 60% of the cost in Adarius Taylor. Why did I say Adarius? Adarius Taylor. The Cleveland Browns went 6-10 that year. So do what you want that you win. Another winner? You want to hear another winner in that offseason period? The New York Jets. The Jets got better by adding Le'Veon Bell at a reasonable price and giving Sam Darnold more receiving options with Bell, Jamison Crowder, and Josh Bellamy. They retained Robbie Anderson, brought back defensive end Henry Anderson, and traded for all-pro guard Kelechi also, I always get his name, Osemele. That's not how you say it, but whatever. Why do I always get it? Oh, that's my Kendrick Perkins right there. Osemele is always my Kendrick Perkins when I'm like, boo, big boo, 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 what you bit. I always get him. But their other big signing was C.J. Mosley, kind of side to side, sideline to sideline presence who can boost any defense. So the winners in 2019 from free agency were the Browns and the Jets. How did that work out?
It's why I don't like doing draft grades. I don't like doing, on occasion I'll do player grades after the season, but I also don't like doing trade grades because very rarely does any trade, especially at the NBA level, work out the way you thought it would. And at the NFL level, like it's very rare that like these gigantic moves actually work out that well.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually drafting well, starting with offensive and defensive lines, like putting money into things like defensive backs and pass rushers, like cycling through running backs and not giving them gigantic contracts because they're only going to last 4 or 5 years anyways. Finding wide receivers that fit your system, finding a franchise quarterback that you can build around. And a good franchise quarterback can create good wide receivers, like what we were talking about. Like there are good wide receivers, guys who walk into the league like Mike Evans, right? Who like every year of his career he's 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns. Almost every year of his career, he came into the league a really good wide receiver, and he continues to be a good wide receiver. But it's the other guys that you make into great wide receivers. And you can even say like Tom Brady, he never really made great wide receivers outside of Wes Welker. Like there wasn't anyone else that ever found huge success. Randy Moss went there and had like his 2 blow-up years late in his career. But outside of that, like they just never really created those guys. And then you have these other, like how many great wide receivers did Peyton Manning make? Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne and T.Y. Hilton. You just every year he's making someone else great, and I think that's like a sign of a great quarterback and a great system. But anyway, it's intriguing.
It absolutely is, and even on that list as well, like one of the losers for that draft, that free agent period was the Baltimore Ravens. I think the Baltimore Ravens went like 15-1 that year. So there's that. Now, in defense of it, one of the winners that year was the San Francisco 49ers. They went to the Super Bowl. So I see our guy, Dr. David, he's all upset because we're saying that we're saying the Raiders aren't going to amount to anything. I don't know. I like what the Raiders did. I think they could have a really good season this year with the free agency deals. I just think it's interesting when a weekend of free agency, people are talking about, winners and losers and all this other stuff. We don't know. There's a lot of work that needs to be done in the draft and in the rest of free agency for all these teams. But it's a hell of a start for the Raiders. Getting those guys, getting Devontae Adams, getting Chandler Jones. Come on, man. I can't be mad at that at all.
How old is Chandler Jones? Isn't he like in his mid 40s? I'm just kidding. I mean, but like he's like 32, 30. He's not young.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
he looked fine last year. So unless he falls off a cliff, I think that's going to be a good addition, especially going on the other side of Max Crosby. That's going to be a good look. Now, the thing about this is, what do you think this and the Deshaun Watson deal that just went down earlier today, what does that do for Jimmy Garoppolo and the 49ers? Does that open it up for them now? Like, is this a blessing that the Deshaun Watson situation got taken care of, or does it make it even harder?
Man, I think it confuses everything. That's for sure. Because I think you look around the league now and we have all kinds of issues. It's like a giant game of, last man standing. It's or like musical chairs. Like there's going to have to be a lot of things that happen. Chandler Jones is 32, just so we have that. He's not 46. Yeah. So like, look, I think that there's going to be a market for Jimmy Garoppolo. He's owed I think it's $24 million. and it's a short-term deal, but something where you're going to get him and you can lock him up and stuff like that. But the Texans clearly need a quarterback now. But we see that Atlanta might need a quarterback because they've kind of screwed things up with Matt Ryan, whether Matt Ryan wants to go back there or not. The Saints need a quarterback. Carolina needs a quarterback. We could probably say Seattle needs a quarterback. Indianapolis needs a quarterback. I mean, we're getting pretty deep, and this is not a quarterback draft. I know that the top name quarterback, like they went to the combine and measured like an 8.5-inch hand, and everyone's like, "Oh boy,
small hands." Oh no,
small hands.
Remember, that was the deal with Alex Smith. Small hands.
Yeah, small hands. But even Alex Smith's hands, I think, were like an inch bigger. That's just usually like somewhat of an issue. So I don't think that there's like a top tier, like this last draft, the draft before that, the league is again filling up with quarterbacks, with top end guys. So some of these teams are going to have to like bide their time. They're going to have to rent a quarterback for a year or two and build something like what the Niners are trying to do when it comes to Trey Lance. They bought a year, and so they're hoping that he'll get, he'll be acclimated and ready to play. But like, look, I think that the Niners should be able to get like I think a minimum what the Colts got for Carson Wentz. Maybe I'm crazy. A pair of thirds, maybe a second and a fourth, but they might not be able to get that at all. Garoppolo's shoulder issue. He had a little shoulder surgery. They said he'll be ready like June 1st, but I don't. Those are sketchy things. You want someone to be there and go through all your stuff. I think the one good thing about Garoppolo is he doesn't cause any waves. I don't think he's good enough to be the reason why you go to a Super Bowl, but he also might not be. I mean, he can be the reason why you don't go. That's for sure. But I think that at the end of the day, like there are better quarterbacks out there, but he's a pretty safe bet. And so I think they'll be able to trade him. I mean, clearly that's why they picked him up, because they thought that they could go out and do something else afterwards.
Yeah. I think Jimmy would do really well in New Orleans. I think New Orleans might try and sign Jameis Winston, but New Orleans defense is set and ready to go. They've got playmakers around them. I think Jimmy would flourish in a situation like that. But I know one thing, and I'm a guy who likes Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm a defender of Jimmy Garoppolo. I think he's a good ball player. No, it's time to move on. So there's no need to have Jimmy Garoppolo here in San Francisco. There's no need to drag this thing out. I'm over the whole compensation thing. Like, get what you get and let's move on. I know you want the most that you can get from him. If it turns out to be a 5th round pick, good. Good. Get it. Let's move on. Let's give Trey the keys. Let's see what he's got, and let's get this going, man.
Well, the fact that the Niners made the moves that they did to clear up clear up salary space this last, what was it, like 2 days ago, so they could retain Garoppolo on the roster, tells you that they at least have more than one team that's interested, because you're still competing. If not, you should have traded him before. But I think some teams are saying, well, we don't think you're going to keep him. That was kind of a prevailing thought. Well, you're not going to keep him, so we're just going to wait till you waive him, like in the coming days, and then we'll sign him then. And so I think by the Kings picking up the 49ers picking up his salary, they're saying, look, we're going to trade him. We're not going to give him away for nothing. Yeah. And at this point, you can't give him away because you got $24 million attached to him. Yeah. So it's a lot of money.
We're going to slide out one more time, James. When I come back, Arco Arena is having a little farewell, goodbye little thing this weekend. So I'd be remiss if I did not ask James some Arco Arena questions while I have him here in D-Lo and KC. We'll talk about that. We'll get you ready for Kings Celtics tonight at the Golden One Center. And we'll get you ready for your weekend as well, man. It's D-Lo and KC. James Ham filling in for Damian Barling right here on Sacramento's #1 sports station, ESPN 1320. Yeah, man.
I'm going to stretch my legs.
Yeah.
One last time.
What you got to do. Jesse, I have Alabama in in the Elite Eight. Oh man, Bama can work right now. Although they're, I think their best player, their point guard, he got hurt from what I saw. Not good for my bracket. Anybody else out there have a bracket that's looking good? Anybody in the chat in the bracket challenge doing big things right now? About 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. Oh, here come the Tide. Oh no, there go the Tide. Bad cross court pass. Bang out. Ah. What am I right now? Bryce says he's 45th. Last time I checked, I was 32nd. Who's going to the game tonight? Jesse will be in the building. I may or may not be in the building. Not exactly sure yet. You know, Sacramento's a nice place to live. It really is. Especially if you got a family. DeReese watched the NCAA games with me? No. He hadn't gotten into college basketball yet. He was watching more YouTube highlights of, who was he watching yesterday? Allen Iverson. Tied for 45th. Still got my champion though. The biggest thing with these things is as long as you can keep 3 of your 4 Final Four teams, you always got to shine. And you got to have your champion too. James, remind me, when we come back, I'm going to ask you immediately about the courtside situation. That was hilarious.
Oh, with all the stars?
Yeah.
That was weird.
It was. And you said you got to step out at what, 3:45 you said?
Yeah.
Okay. That's cool. Okay. Gotcha.
Someone's asking if Fox's game time. Fox is questionable, which gives him a 50-50 chance of playing. But I have not seen that updated, and we're kind of waiting to hear from the team because I get the feeling there might be something more there. So just a FYI, you can look at the 5:30 injury report.
The Kings put out a Instagram post, and it's Davion and Dante. And they said, what would you nickname this duo? I need everybody in the chat to go spray those comments with Off Night and Off White. And tag D-Lo and KC too. Tag D-Lo and KC. Spray it with Off Night and Off White. Get some fire emojis in there.
How much time do we have?
How much time we got, Jesse? 45 seconds.
Okay, David, no is the answer to your question. There were a lot of people that did some incredible work behind the scenes trying to help save the Kings as grassroots people. And
David's
And there was a guy who stood up on a ladder and took a lot of credit for what other people did. So
That's it. Oh man, we coming back, man.
yeah.
Okay. It is a Friday. It is D-Lo and KC. It's just your man KC right here, but I got my main man James Ham riding with me today. We've had a blast talking Kings basketball, talking Foxy Brown again, talking about the NFL, talking to Trista, Crick, Ben Ross, all my people, man. We've had a good time here today on this Friday as we get ready for Kings and Celtics tonight at the Golden One Center. But before we get to the Kings and Celtics at the Golden One Center, James, we got a situation where we're saying goodbye to an old friend, to Arco Arena. The Kings are having a farewell party in the parking lot tomorrow. And yeah, Arco's leaving. Are you sad? Are you shedding a tear for Arco getting blown to smithereens?
I don't plan on going down to the wake, and it's supposed to rain and like totally ruin everything. Yeah. I mean, it's supposed to like literally ruin everything.
Yeah,
I mean,
one day in all of March that it's going to rain. It's going to be tomorrow. Very key.
Yeah. And I spent like 5 years like as a reporter working there. So 5 or I don't know, it might be longer than that. 6. Like, look, I'll miss it. Like, it's one of the greatest buildings for noise ever. And that's look, the dogs have decided to come downstairs.
They are chasing.
Yeah, so getting a little crazy-eyed on my son here. Like, what are you doing? Yeah, this is live radio.
Oh, we're live, pal.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, look, I think it's there's a lot of like good memories. I have a ton of good memories. I was there for like the 95-96 playoffs against Seattle. I was there for a ton of games all the way through the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s. Like there are just so many memories, and the fact that it, like the whole lower bowl was wooden, and Arco Thunder. I think some of the best things about Arco is like when you got to go. I really hope that eventually the Kings get to the playoffs because it's just different. Like a Sacramento crowd, even Golden One has a great vibe. But when you were in Arco for a playoff game, you walk in the building and the building is alive. And the only other way that I can like describe something like that is like if you're in New York City at 2:00 in the morning, the city is still alive. You feel it. Like there's so many people out. It has a buzz. And Arco had this way, like when things, like for big games, like the whole building just like you could feel it. Yeah. And that's not something that you get in a lot of places. And even like Golden One is very sterile. Like it doesn't have the same feel, which is partially by design because Arco is so poorly designed that like the mezzanine, the walkways were too narrow, and you were like cows, being herded out of the building, and it wasn't safe. Like it was a fire hazard, clearly. So like at the end of the day, there's a different release coming here in a sec.
Boy. Breaking news. Hold on, I got you, James.
As soon as it hits my inbox, yes. So anyway, like I definitely
be locked in here to D-Lo and KC.
It's going to be any minute here. We're going to get an update on one of the Kings players, which I do not believe is De'Aaron Fox. Like strangely enough. So anyway, like I really, really enjoyed every game I went to Golden One. I mean, to Arco, and like I went there as a young kid. I think I've told this story before. The PA announcer from 1985 until the early 2000s in the building, his name was Fred Anderson. He also called football games at Nevada Union. He was a deacon at my church. Before he did that, he was a baseball announcer for, I think, CBS Radio for decades. Just an amazing voice. So, like, the guy that came before Scott Moak. And Fred was so, like, when we went to games, my dad would walk us down, and we walk all the way to the court and say hi to Fred as he... Okay, so hang on one sec. Rashaan Holmes will miss the remainder of the 2021-22 season for personal reasons. Yes, Rashaan Holmes is a core member of our team who is very important to our success. We fully support Rich and look forward to seeing him back on the court for the 2022-23 season. I would like to thank everyone for their support during these difficult times. Holmes says, I love this team, I love my teammates, and I look forward to returning next year. So there is a personal issue with Rashaan Holmes that is going to keep him off the court for the remainder of the season.
Wow.
That to me is a shocker, and at the same time, it's not. I
just
let me.
I feel
you take over for a sec while I break this.
Yes, go ahead. I know I feel bad for Rashaan Holmes. You know, it has been such a tough season for him, professionally, personally, and I know he's doing well. His family's doing well financially with the contract that you got, but I'm sure he expected a whole lot more. You know, he expected a lot more, and I'm not gonna look down or criticize him because he thought he was gonna get $80 million and he ended up with 40 or 60 or whatever it was. Like that. That's a huge difference. You lose $20-30 million and not be bummed about it. Like, yeah, you're appreciative of what you got, but it started with that, and then the injuries, the freak injuries, and just the bad mojo all around, and catching COVID, all this other stuff, man. And then that's before we talk about some of the personal things that reported to go on in his life. Just a tough year. I hope that he takes, the time he needs. He, finds some solace, and, if it's with the Kings or anywhere else, just comes back and kills it next year, man. I want him to have such a better and more positive season next year than what he experienced this year.
Yeah, to me, like I've been around Rashaan Holmes for a couple of years now. He's just a really, really good guy. Mm-hmm. He is. I've done interviews with his parents. They're good people. I hope that everything's okay. I hope that it's nothing major off the court. You don't know. We don't know. I don't know what the deal is. We don't know why he missed a couple of games with personal reasons. I'll tell you, all of those with personal reasons was awkward because he was there working out on the court when we got a note saying he would not be playing that night due to personal reasons. And then he was at practice and had a really good practice, and then all of a sudden he's out for personal reasons. Right. Like, those were really strange situations as a reporter. But I'll always tell you, like, when it's personal reasons, there was a time when the Kings were good about saying, hey, look, this is not to be reported, but this is kind of what's going on. Mm-hmm. And they would do that with some of us reporters, and they would say, like, look, this is what's happening, but please don't report that out of respect for him and his family or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it'd be like, okay. And the reason why you do that is so we as reporters can tell people, like, look, trust us. We understand what's happening, right? But at the same time, it's not. It's personal, and we're not going to get into it. Right. And so just understand that there is something going outside of basketball. So I'm hoping we get some of the clearance on that. Like, I do know, like, he had a family member die, but again, we don't even know when that happened. Mm-hmm. And that's been a little while since we saw that news and stuff. So I'm not sure what to make of this. I just know that, thoughts go out to Rashaan Holmes because this is nothing that he expected. Yeah, at all. Yeah,
that's tough. So. And Rashaan Holmes is we talk about this all the time about him, the type of player that Sacramento Kings fans in this city wraps their arms around, and he is the definition of that. He is Michael the Animal Smith. He is Brian Grant. He is Vladdy and Scott Pollard and Doug Christie and all, in a long lineage of guys like that. That's who Rashaan Holmes is. And, we have the running joke here and, about me always trying to trade him or whatever the case may be. But that's just to get the team better. I love Rashaan Holmes. I love him and what he brings to the table. And I know the whole city feels the same way about Rashaan. So I hope he's okay. And like I said, whether it's here or anybody else, anywhere else, man, I hope he comes back and is killing it next year and he's all right.
Yeah, he's a heart and soul player. That's what, he's a hustle guy. He's a guy who, like, literally turned himself into an NBA starter here in Sacramento. He went from being a guy who bounced around the league, played for Philadelphia, played for Phoenix, got so much more money here than he had made before, got a 2-year, $10 million deal, all kinds of excitement. It took 4 games into the season for him to take the job from Dwayne Dedman. He really became that next level rim running pick and roll specialist that the Kings needed. And then the dynamic of the team completely changed. And, again, like, part of the dynamic of the team changed because it had to, because Rashaan Holmes missed so much time. And he, like, I'm not going to say it's his fault, but when you miss time, like, teams have to look at different things. And when a deal came up, if you already had a frontline guy who was playing every game and everything else, then, maybe you don't make the Sabonis trade. Maybe you don't. But the fact is that, like, it was such a question mark. And again, it's not his fault. Just the worst string of bad luck. He got hit in the eye once and then came back and then got hit in the eye bad and had to have an actual procedure on his eyeball. And then COVID, and, and then they trade for a guy who takes his position. Just really, really, really hard.
Yeah, for sure.
Stephen Brown could not have taken Redmond's job, but that's okay. It's okay, Stephen. I get you, but no, you couldn't have.
That's funny.
You could have done this. You could have done this, like just running up and down the court. But just saying.
Long list of guys that come to Sacramento and just can't shoot anymore. Long list. So, as we have to do, because we're professionals and the Kings are professionals, this means, I know on the Kings Beat you were talking about it yesterday. I think you were talking about it yesterday. Maybe it was Brendan, but you were like, well, now that Rashaan's back in the rotation and, they're doing all this other stuff, we probably should be seeing more Damian Jones, but we won't. Well, now we probably will, right? Damian Jones is the backup center. I like Damian Jones, man. I do. I like Damian Jones. I think we talked about this before. He's at a point in his career where he knows who he is. He knows what his role is in this league, and he has accepted it and is locked into it. And I think since he came here, he's done nothing but do his job and produce what he needs to produce pretty much night in and night out. And I love to see him back. And, we get to see him here probably to close out the season. Probably see a little Keita this year. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, for my money, I mean, you know who Damian Jones is. You've seen a lot of Damian Jones. If this, like, let's say the next 2 to 3 games just go the way that they probably should go, like if you go on another little losing streak here, I don't see why you wouldn't give Keita a look down the stretch. I don't know if people were watching, but I think he put up 29 and 6 or 29 and 9 last night with a couple of blocks. And I'll say this about Keita too. Keita is more like Sabonis than any of the other players they have.
Explain that one.
So Damian Jones, I've said this before, is to me, he's kind of Rashaan Holmes light. He's a pick and roll player. He's a rim runner. He's a guy who runs out in front of the crowd to try to stretch the defense vertically. And so then that way you have your trailers who come in and all the spacing is in front. Like Damian Jones and Rashaan Holmes are just like, they're similar players. Like whether one has better length or height or whatever, yes, like they're different shapes and sizes. but really they're the same player type. Alex Len is a totally different player type. Alex Len is an old school rim protector and like a tough guy. That's what he comes in and gets you rebounds and maybe has to punch somebody here and there and can block a shot. He added some things where he could shoot the three and all that, but Kada is different. He has a really, really interesting skill set. He's not a high flyer, although he's really good in the pick and roll. He is very, very good in the pick and roll because he's a huge, huge body.
Yeah, it's huge.
Again, he isn't a guy who's gonna like do a bunch of alley-oop stuff. He can do alley-oop stuff, but not like the high flyers, not like Chimezi or Rashaan or Damian. But he's a guy you can play a ton of offense through. So he can develop as a passer. He can be an elite passer. And so, I think it,
I watched the game, the Stockton Kings. It wasn't their first game. Maybe it was like one of their first 3 games or something like that. And I remember they played the Jazz G League team. And I forgot his first name, but Azubuike, who used to be the center at Kansas. He was on that team. And he moved Kada around so much. Like he would put a shoulder into his chest and he was dunking all over. Like Kada had a problem. And fast forward 3-4 weeks later, and I think it was about the time where he came up when, he played for the COVID guys, he looked so much better. And it's gotten to the point now where in the G League, he's having moments like 29-9, where he's a problem for everybody else. I say that to say he seems to have gotten so much better so quickly, in his time with the Stockton Kings. And I would love to see what he could do on the NBA level here at the end of the season. Because how I talk about with Damian Jones, how Damian Jones got to a point in his career where he understood who he was, he understood what his role was in this league, and he said, I'm going to excel at this. I know maybe people drafted me thinking they had expectations. The Warriors drafted me thinking I would be, DeAndre Jordan or something like that. I'm not that, right? But I can be this, and he's excelled at that. If Kada, whatever this is for Kada, whatever his role is in this league and his skill set in this league, if he can find that and say, this is who I am, and this is going to be my baseline, and I could work to, maybe get better here and there, but I'm going to always do this. I'm always going to protect the rim. I'm always going to rebound. I'm always going to be a role guy. If he can get to that fairly quickly, I'm super intrigued about what he could be for this Kings team and in this league.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Kada's got incredibly soft hands. He's got a really nice jump shot. I've seen him shoot threes at practice. He's an excellent shot blocker. That's something that I think he was second in the nation in blocks in his senior year at Utah State, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's an intriguing prospect to me, and he's a tremendously large man, and he also is a very, very good guy. Like that's it's nothing but good. When I saw him originally, I thought, okay, I'm intrigued, but like I watched a lot of his body mechanics, and I thought, okay, this is going to be tough. You're going to have to do a lot of work. His core needed a ton of work. He a lot of times he looked like he was dragging his body around a little bit. And I know he was dinged up coming into like the California Classic, but in order to be a shot blocker at the NBA level or even the G League level, you have to understand that like the athleticism between college and even not a high division college team, we're not talking about he wasn't playing in the ACC or something.
Right.
Like if you're playing at for Utah State, like the level of competition is good, but there's also some guys who aren't super athletic that you're going up against, which is why they're not at big schools. He was gonna have issues tracking faster, longer players at the next level, right? And so I think he's worked hard already on his body, and getting him in the training room and working a lot of those kinks out are going to make him just that much better. His athleticism can go up considerably because he just hasn't, it's a full-time job. When you're an NBA player, it is a full-time job to work on your body and get yourself in the most premium shape possible to do whatever it is you can do. And I think he's going to be. I think he's going to be really solid. Like I think he can be a player at the NBA level. Now, do I think he can be an all-star or something? Like I'm not saying that,
Right.
but I do think that he can be a rotational player at some point. It's just going to take time, and I think the Kings have worked with him going back and forth between Stockton. I think maybe he spent too much time with the main team, but like it's good for a player to go on a 7-game or 5-game road trip or a 6-game road trip. It's really good for them. And so again, I think it's we're seeing just the progress of him in the beginning, and we don't know where it's going to end up.
Yeah, for sure. We got James for a couple more minutes. He's got to get down to the Golden One Center for the game tonight between the Celtics and the Kings. But like I said, it'd be criminal if, we're talking about farewell to Arco and I don't ask James a couple questions. So one thing that I did want to ask you and what I wanted to figure out, when did they start to try to move from Arco to in your memory? Like, because it seemed like it wasn't that old of an arena. Like, well, it was.
Okay, so I can explain this. I can explain
90? Was that when it went up? Or 88?
No, 1988. 1988 is when it opened its doors. So they opened up Arco 1 on the fly, and it was one of the first concrete pop-up buildings in California. They literally framed it out on the ground, filled it with concrete, popped up the walls. Like it's a pop-up building, and it's still in existence. You drive by Arco 1. If you've gone to Arco 2 enough, you've driven by Arco 1 a million times and you probably didn't know it. It still has 2 statues out front of it, which were designed by 2 brothers here in Sacramento. And it's I think it's the Department of Consumer Affairs. It's literally, it's right down the street from Arco 2. Arco 2, the problem is when they built Arco 2, it was in an era where a bunch of franchises built the same basic blocks. All of them were building them at the same time, right? And the Kings ran out of money and were never able to put the finishing touches. Like it was supposed to have better acoustics. It was supposed to have like better stuff in the ceiling. The Kings were like definitely like their build out of that, like it cost a lot. It was probably more than what they envisioned.
Wow.
But what happened was at the same time they were building that, and I think it's the Target Center, the Bradley Center, like all of these buildings around the league, they were built at the same time. The Detroit Pistons built the Palace at the same time. And then the Palace was literally a palace. So you went from the Kings Arena, which had like 24 luxury boxes, to the Palace that had like 75 luxury boxes.
Wow.
And so your ability to make money from corporate money was so much greater for like the Pistons, but then every other franchise after that started building their arenas like that. And they kept getting nicer and nicer and nicer. But the true issue with like Arco was, number one, it had 1 kitchen, where Golden One has 6.
Jeez.
6 kitchens. It had 1 docking bay. So you could drive into Arco, drive through the middle of the arena, and drive out the other side, I believe. But that's it. Like Golden One has 6 docking bay doors. Like there's all kinds of ways to get stuff in there. Yeah. So it wasn't just, it was a structural issue that made it obsolete the day the doors opened.
Wow.
And so that's why it was always like a push to get a new arena, because there was no way to compete financially, especially with all the luxury boxes, loge seating, all that stuff. There was no like true loge seating, like that row that you see in most arenas, which is just, it's not a luxury box, but it's like 12 seats and it's really nice stuff. I mean, the Kings had some drop down stuff, but it just wasn't very nice. And so anyway, that's Arco had to be redesigned.
They looked can you imagine that today? Like 5-6 years later. Yeah, we need a new arena. Didn't we just build one? Yeah. We understand it. That's like next year, them saying, Golden One Center's it's just not cutting it. We need in the arena. Craziness. Absolutely.
Well, and even like one of the problems was the Maloofs when they first bought the team, it came with a loan. Like the previous owner had gone to the city and said, "Hey, we're going to move to Nashville if you don't like help us renovate the arena." So the city gave them, I think it was a $77 million loan that was just sitting out there. So when the Maloofs bought the team, it came with that gigantic loan, and it was for renovations. But there was really no way to renovate the arena outside of like cosmetic stuff.
Right.
There was no way to go in and add more sections of premium seats, and there was no way to do like a lounge somewhere. But because again, look at like they had the Skyline Lounge, right? And they had one other lounge upstairs. Look at the Golden One Center has like 4 or 5 like really high-end premium lounges.
Right.
Like Vivek has his own lounge, but there's Alexis Lounge. There's all of these lounges that are hiding, and then you have like the beer gardens upstairs. Like those are things that are just huge draws, especially when you're dealing with corporate money. And the Kings never had it. They never had that ability because of the building itself and because it was obsolete when it was built. But I still love it. I still love walking in there, the smell of it. I worked there for a long time, not as an employee, but I worked there as media member, going in the locker room, going in everywhere. The Kings locker room was amazing. The visiting locker room it's smaller than my bar. It was smaller than my bar, and it was awkward, like maybe 12 feet deep and like 15 feet long. And then it had cold water. It was just bad. The training room was bad for the opposing players, the opposing team. Yeah, it was a mess, man. It certainly was. So, anyway.
James, I appreciate you, man. I'm going to let you go and make the trip down to downtown Sacramento, man. But, hey, it's always a good time to spend time with James Ham, man. And we got to talk about some other things today, not just Kings, man. So it was a lot of fun, man. I appreciate you.
We didn't even talk about my A's. Oh,
I know.
Damn you, A's.
We're going to talk about these A's and talk about if they're going to stay in Oakland. Real quick, if they leave, are you still going to be A's fan?
No, I'm like I said that with the Kings too. Like if the Kings left, I would probably have given up on basketball. But I'll also tell you that like my son has had to endure this nightmare, not just with the Kings not winning, but he's 18 and so he's had to like watch all this losing, but he's also had to have his heart ripped out by the A's time and time again. And he asked me the other day if we could become Padres fans, and we're in negotiations because I might need to choose a different I can't be a Giants fan. I can't.
I'm about to say, Ham, hold on now. You know somebody in a high place, i.e. myself. I can push your fan application through. You can come right over there to China Basin, right across the bridge, and let's do this. Come on, man. We be at our Oracle every weekend. Let's go. Come on, be a Giants fan. Come on.
Yeah, I don't think I can do that. I need to find something fresh. And I think we might also like follow one of the players. Like, hey, let's go be a fan here. And if the A's get their stuff back together. But look, I've been an A's fan since I was a little kid. I've been going to the Coliseum since I was a little kid. I've never been so embarrassed for a franchise to do something. What they're doing right now, while they're trying to get an arena built, while they're a stadium built, while they're again, they sent out Matt Olson jerseys to their season ticket holders, and then traded him. I mean, that's just trash. Yeah. And then they just raise their season ticket prices so much. They're just trying to run people out. And it's just, to me, it's tragic. Yeah. And so, I might be willing to take someone else's, offer here of a good quality team that is at least trying and has young talent that's fun to watch. And I hate saying that because I never give up on teams. But
Helio Ramos, Lamont Wade Jr., my main man Luciano. We got the young talent coming up. Hunter Bishop. Come on, let's go. Let's go, James. I've already taken you out enough, man. Go ahead and do what you got to do. James Ham, man. Appreciate you again, bro. That was James Ham hanging out with me on D-Lo and KC. Now it's just me for the next 7 minutes or whatever the case may be. I'll let the people in the chat, if you guys want to, because I may have my own things to ramble about, but I'll let the people in the chat. And I think, Jesse, we could take calls real quick, can't we? You guys got 2 minutes to call in if you want to. All right, 2 minutes to call in. We could do that. Topic roulette. You guys want to ask me any question you can, go ahead and ask it. I may or may not answer it, but you could ask it if you want to. But we got Wheezy in here saying it's 7-minute Drake bars. You guys want Drake bars 7 minutes? I don't know. Kings Celtics tonight though, and I really hope Fox plays because I talked to Jesse about this. I think in the show call, Boston, one of the top teams in the league right now. They're playing phenomenal basketball, but Jesse mentioned it. They're super physical on the defensive end. And if you can get Fox, Sabonis, DiVincenzo, Davion in an environment like this, kind of like the environment that we saw on Wednesday night, where Milwaukee was super physical. Milwaukee was not. They were playing playoff-like intensity, playoff-like physicality. I think that can't do anything but help these guys experiencing something like that and seeing how they work with each other in that situation. So I hope Fox plays. First and foremost, I hope he's healthy. But I hope he gets an opportunity to see that. Let's go to the lines real quick. We got my main man Ramsey in here. Ramsey don't want to talk talk baseball or hockey. He wants to talk about Kentucky. Ramsey, what's good, man?
Not too much. I just want to talk back on that Kentucky
Hold on
topic.
1 second, Ramsey. Hold on 1 second. Jesse, is that me? That echo? Oh, okay. Let's try it again. Ramsey, you there? Okay. So the stream might not be able to hear you, but I can hear you. The radio can hear you. We're on the radio. We're a radio show. What's going on, Ramsey? Mm-hmm. Was Kentucky the team? Was that the team you said was going to lose, or was it? No, it was Arizona. You said they were going to lose quick. Wow. Oh. Oh. I hear you. No, yeah, I don't disagree with anything you or James said. Who you got winning the national championship, Ramsey? The Zags. Zags versus No, you got Arizona out. Zags versus Auburn. Yeah, I like Jay Wright. That's my boy right there. Jay Wright always got them boys ready for the tournament, man. I appreciate you, Ramsey. Enjoy your weekend, man. Yeah, Coach Cal. I think he's like everybody says, a super recruiter. I never looked at Coach Cal as this type of guy that, X's and O's. He's got the flex offense, the Kentucky offense, not like the Princeton offense. The Kentucky, he ain't got all that. But I do look at Coach Cal as somebody who is able to get a bunch of talent together, and he's able to somehow, some way, get those guys to play together. He's not getting the same recruiting classes that he was getting in the early 2000s or whatever the case may be. But much like Phil Jackson, I think there is a virtue and a talent of getting those when he would get 5 of the top 6 players in the country to come play Kentucky in 1 year and get those guys to work together and be a good team. It's not like Coach Cal getting knocked out in the first round every year. I mean, we talking about Elite Eights, we talking about Final Fours. Remember what he did at Memphis with Derrick Rose. Like, his teams win, and when they lose, it's usually late in the tournament. So, I dig what he's able to do in that situation. So, yeah, that's about it. Let's get Dane. Dane, you got about 30 seconds. Dane on the line wants to talk with Rashaan Holmes. What's going on, man? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough because I really like Rashaan, man. I really do, man. So I hope he's all right. I hope everything goes well for him, and I hope he comes back next year and he's ready to kill it. Like I said, whether it's here in Sacramento or anywhere else, man. So that is all the time I have for today and this week, man. I appreciate all you guys getting in here, tapping in with us all week. Damien will be back next week. I'll be back next week. Jesse will be back next week. Hope you guys enjoy your weekend. And once again, go Kings on ESPN 1320, Sacramento's #1 sports station. We out of here. Peace. Yes, sir. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. Chat. I've been making too much noise in my house. Other people can't do what they're supposed to do. So I'm not going to stay on here too long. I may or may not be at the game tonight. If I am, make sure you say what's up. Jesse will be in there. He's going to be in a Larry Bird jersey. At least it's not a Paul Pierce jersey. At least it's not a Paul Pierce jersey. But yeah, man, I appreciate you guys for tapping in, man. We'll definitely be back next week. I think the Kings get one of these wins this weekend. I'm gonna say it. I think they get one. I don't know which one. I'm starting to lean more towards Phoenix than Boston, even though on my list I have the Boston game as a win. Phoenix is a loss. I'm feeling like that may need to be switched around, but I think they get one this weekend. I'm gonna tell you right now, after they play on April 1st, they won't be mathematically eliminated yet. And that's just the way things go. That doesn't mean they're going to get in, but they won't be mathematically eliminated. I'm going to tell you that right now. After their 2 games against Houston, they're still going to be mathematically alive. And we're going to be like, this is ridiculous that we have to go through this all the time. It is what it is. Y'all be good, though, man. Have a great weekend. We'll see y'all next week. I'm up out of here. Peace. Go Kings.